I learned very young that silence can be taught. I was a teenager when someone of my own, a family member, crossed lines everyone pretended did not exist, and I was told to be quiet, to be respectful, and to stop imagining things. I tried. I swallowed fear and learned how to smile through it. When I finally spoke up, my parents chose comfort over truth and family over me. They said I misunderstood, that he meant nothing by it. I believed them because I wanted to. Then, one night proved what I'd been saying all along, and everything broke forever after that moment happened. My parents planned the camping trip to Great Smoky Mountains National Park in Tennessee like it was supposed to fix everything. They said we needed family time, fresh air, and a break from phones and stress. I was actually excited at first. I had seen pictures of it online, the famous misty mountains and waterfalls. I thought it would be peaceful. But the excitement disappeared the moment we pulled into the campsite. My uncle was already there, standing near a picnic table like he had been waiting for us. I felt my chest tighten when I saw him. I never liked being around him. He stared too much, for too long, and always found excuses to hug me or touch my shoulders when he walked past. I had told my mom before that he made me uncomfortable. She always brushed it off and said he was just being friendly and that I was imagining things. I tried to ignore him and focus on setting up camp. The forest was beautiful during the day. Sunlight filtered through tall trees, and everything smelled clean and sharp. Birds moved between branches, and the wind carried distant sounds I could not place. I wanted to believe I could enjoy it. Later in the afternoon, I went to collect firewood on my own. I needed space. As I bent down to pick up a branch, I heard a snap behind me. I froze and turned slowly. It was my uncle. He was standing too close, staring at me with a smile that did not reach his eyes. He commented on how fast I was growing up and said the shorts I was wearing were loose and unflattering. He told me I should try tighter clothes, bodysuits, and things that would suit me better. His voice made my skin crawl. Something in me finally snapped. Months of rage curled up in that 1 second, and I walked straight to him and slapped him hard across the face. The sound echoed in the trees. His expression changed instantly. I thought this would teach him a lesson, but instead he started yelling, calling me disrespectful and ungrateful. He stormed off toward the campsite, leaving me shaking and terrified. When I told my parents what happened, they scolded me for no reason. They said I had insulted my uncle and caused unnecessary drama. My uncle left a few seconds later, and my parents fought the entire evening, drowning everything in booze. That night, I cried myself to sleep in my tent. The forest changed after dark. The warmth faded quickly, and the trees turned into tall black shapes pressing in from all sides. My parents were in a separate tent a short distance away. I lay awake, listening to the night sounds, trying to calm myself. Around midnight, I heard footsteps. At first, I told myself it was an animal. Campsites were surrounded by wildlife after all. But the footsteps were slow and deliberate, circling my tent. I whispered my dad's name and called his phone. There was no answer. I realized then that my parents had passed out. I slowly unzipped my tent just enough to look outside. There was nothing there, just trees and shadows. The campsite looked normal. I told myself I was overreacting and zipped the tent closed. About 20 minutes later, I heard it again. This time, it was the sound of my tent zipper moving. That was when real fear hit me. Deep down, I knew who it could be. My hands shook as I grabbed my phone. I turned on the camera and started recording, holding it close to my chest. I remember thinking that if something happened, I needed proof. I needed someone to finally believe me. The zipper opened, and my uncle's face appeared in the opening. He crawled into my tent, his voice low and angry.
Did you think you could get rid of me so easily? You were wrong.
I started screaming as loud as I could. He lunged forward and clamped his hand over my mouth, trying to silence me. I bit down hard, and he shouted in pain. He grabbed my arm and twisted it, hissing, "I've waited for this moment for so long, and there's no way I'm leaving tonight without fulfilling my desires." I kept calling for my parents, screaming for someone to hear my cry for help. My uncle brought his face closer to my ears, breathing hot air on my skin. I thought I was going to die. But then, I heard my parents shouting my name. Flashlights flickered outside the tent. My uncle froze and cursed under his breath. He listened carefully and then scrambled backward. Without wasting a second more, he disappeared into the darkness between the trees, just as my parents reached me. I collapsed into my dad's arms, shaking and sobbing. I showed them the video. It clearly captured his face and his voice inside my tent. There was no denying it anymore. My parents kept apologizing over and over. They called the police immediately. My uncle was arrested not long after. I survived, but I was not the same. I stopped going out much. I stopped trusting people easily. Even now, the sound of a zipper at night makes my heart race. The forest was beautiful, but that night taught me that danger can hide anywhere, even among people we were told to trust. I was 34 years old when I took over my grandfather's roadside hotel in Montana. It sat just off a dead stretch of highway, surrounded by snowy woods and distant mountains. It was a snowy Thursday night. Business had been slow. I was half asleep behind the front desk when a man in his late 40s entered with both hands buried deep in his coat pockets. Snow clung to his shoulders, but he didn't care to brush it off. He did not even blink much. He just stared at me with a patient, steady expression. "I need a room for the night. Top floor with mountain view." The way he said it made me feel a bit weird for no clear reason. "Room 312 is open," I said after a short pause. When I slid the register across the counter for him to sign, he did not move. "Bring it to my room," he said. "I need your signature here at the desk," I replied. "I just really need to pee, so you can make an exception, I hope." I thought it wouldn't cause any harm to get the signatures later, so I forced a polite smile and grabbed the key to show him to his room. Strangely, he did not take the key from me, like he was totally committed to not taking his hands out of his pockets. He simply turned and started toward the stairs. I followed behind him. When we reached the third floor, I unlocked the door to room 312 and stepped back. "Give me 15 minutes to freshen up and bring the register to sign." I stepped back into the hallway, stared at me for a long, uncomfortable moment, and then he slammed the door so hard it rattled the walls. I hurried downstairs and sat behind the desk, thinking, does he have a gun? But a few minutes later, I told myself I was overreacting. I had seen strange guests before. Addicts, drifters, people running from something. Maybe he's just another weird creep. 10 minutes later, I took the pen and forced myself back upstairs. The hallway on the third floor was dead silent. When I reached his door, I heard water running from inside the room. I knocked. "Come in." I opened the door. The bathroom faced the entry. Steam rolled out into the room. The man stood at the sink with his back facing me. He was washing his hands slowly. Nothing about him felt weird now. I blamed my mind for judging people too quickly. Maybe he really needed to use the washroom. I put the register on the nearby coffee table and waited. While washing his hands, he began making small talk with me. He told me that I have maintained the pipeline and drainage system well, because often at hotels like these, people face poor maintenance. I too initiated the conversation by replying about how I inherited the place from my grandpa and I'm trying to turn it around. As we talked, I scanned the room, searching for his belongings. He had no luggage when he entered, hence there was only his jacket, which was now lying on the bed. Even from the back, I could tell the man had rough days. There were stains on his once white shirt. The back pocket of his jeans had mud, like he had sat on the ground for hours. The man probably thought I was getting impatient, so he began asking me more questions. And slowly, his questions were getting uncomfortable.
Do you wash the bathroom with bleach?
Yeah?
Good. Bleach takes away every stain.
I rolled my eyes, thinking how he was wasting my time. At one point, I got really frustrated and asked how long it will take for him to sign the register, because I have to go down for some other work. That's when he dropped the soap on the bathroom floor. He ducked down to grab it, and for the first time, I got a glimpse of the sink. The entire white sink had stains of blood mixed with water. That one hand of his, which was grabbing the edge of the sink while he picked up the soap, still had clots of dried blood near his fingernails. It hit me that moment why he refused to take his hands out from his pocket. He had blood on them, and it was clearly not his blood because he had no wounds whatsoever. The man got up with the soap, finished cleaning his hands as much as he could, and then turned to face me. His eyes were wide now, and he had a bigger smile than before.
Long night, huh? Some stains just don't come out unless you scrub real deep.
I stood terrified, glued to the floor. He wiped his wet hands on my jeans, then picked up his jacket from the bed. While wearing the jacket, he watched me like a hawk. Then he came closer to me and said,
I just needed to use your washroom.
I gulped. No words came out of my mouth. He leaned closer, almost breathing on my face.
Don't worry, I cleaned up most of it.
I still couldn't talk. He looked at the mirror, set his hair, and then walked to the door. Before leaving, he looked at me one last time and said,
You seem like the kind who knows when to stay quiet. Good, I like that.
He left just as he came. I don't remember how long I stood there, watching the remaining blood stains on the sink and the half-open door of the room. That night, I locked every door and window of the hotel and put up the close sign on the door. I couldn't sleep the entire night, thinking if I call the cops and the man gets to know, what will he do to me? For weeks after the incident, I kept a close eye on the local paper, hoping to read about a body being found or the man getting caught. But still, no such thing happened. I want to go to the cops, but I'm scared for my life. I was 24 years old, living in Boulder, Colorado. My house was on a quiet residential street about 15 minutes from Pearl Street, where my friend Betsy lived. It was a Saturday night, and I was walking home from her birthday party, drunk and tired. The night was cool and clear, and the streets were almost completely empty. Most of the houses were dark, and the few porch lights that were on cast yellow beams on the sidewalks. I remember feeling relaxed and safe, which is something that feels embarrassing to admit now. I had my phone in my hand, scrolling through messages as I walked, when I noticed a porch light flickering on the left side of the street at some distance. It was flickering fast and unevenly, like it was about to die. The light would blink off for a second, and then snap back on again. Each time it did, I thought I saw a shape standing beneath it. At first, I told myself that it was just my eyes adjusting to the darkness and the alcohol, but the shape stayed. As I got closer, the light stopped flickering and stayed on. I realized I wasn't wrong. There was indeed a man standing under it. He was standing perfectly still, staring up at the porch light bulb as if he were studying it or waiting for it to change again. His face was painted in a sad, drooping mask, white skin, a red nose, and a blue mouth that curved downward like he was frozen mid-cry. He wore a crooked little hat and dirty green shirt under a torn coat that looked older than me. The whole scene felt off in a way I could not explain, but I did not want to admit that to myself. I did not want to be the person who panicked over nothing. I told myself he was probably a street performer walking home after a gig. I kept walking. As soon as I passed the house, I heard footsteps behind me. They were slow and careful, like someone trying not to be heard. The sound was soft, but in the quiet street, it was impossible to ignore. I turned around, expecting the clown behind me, but there was nobody there. The porch light behind me was still on, and the sidewalk was empty. A hooting owl flew over my head, almost giving me a heart attack. I felt a spike of anxiety, but I told myself I was just imagining things. I continued walking again. Suddenly, I heard footsteps, and my ears caught up to the sound coming from across the street. I looked, and it was him, the sad clown. He was standing near a stop sign on the opposite sidewalk, directly across from me, and he was facing me, like he was about to walk up to me any minute now. I felt cold sweat dripping down from my head. He didn't move, though. He just stood there, watching me. I watched him too, breathing heavily, yet he didn't react. He just stayed there. I swallowed and started walking again. He started walking too. I stopped. He stopped as well. I paused for a few seconds and picked up pace, and so did he. That clown was not just following me, he was mimicking me. He never crossed the street. He just mirrored my movement perfectly, like my reflection. I laughed nervously under my breath and told myself it was coincidence, but my hands were starting to shake.
Bro, don't you have anything better to do?
He didn't reply, just chuckled like I said something funny. I screamed in frustration.
Seriously? Are you dumb?
He chuckled again, like a 6-year-old kid laughing at bathroom jokes. I picked up my pace. He picked up his pace. Every time I slowed down, he did the same. I could feel my heart beating harder with every step. I tried pretending I wasn't scared of him, but my face told otherwise. For the next 15 minutes, he continued this facade without crossing the streets. When I reached my block, my stomach dropped, and a daunting realization hit me. My house was on the same side of the street as his. This meant I had to cross. Did he know all this when he followed me? It sent chills down my spine. I stepped off the curb. That was when he changed. He dropped to all fours. He did not do it suddenly or aggressively. He did it slowly, as if he had been planning to do it the whole time. His body bent backwards, not forward, his stomach facing the sky. His spine arched in a way no human spine should bend. His face was upside down, staring at me as he crawled, moving like a spider wearing a human body. I screamed and ran as fast as I could. He was chasing me in that freaky way, while letting out a sobbing cry like he was in serious pain. His crying voice sounded straight out of a horror movie. Even though he was bent backwards, he moved too fast. I knew if I fell down or slowed down a bit, he'd catch up to me. So I ran, and I ran until I reached my porch and fumbled with the lock. I dropped my keys. I picked them up again. I looked back to see how far he was when I saw him stand up. I hurried with the door, thinking now he will be coming and sprinting at me. Right when I unlocked the door, I heard his voice screaming into the night.
You should not walk home alone.
I slid down against the door and called the police with shaking hands. The cops searched the area, but found no one that matched the clown's description. Later, my neighbors told me I was not the first. They said people had been reporting a man dressed like a sad clown stalking pedestrians late at night. I changed address and didn't follow up on whether he was arrested. But till today, I don't walk home alone at night. I only sent the text as a joke.
Saw a weird bird today.
Everyone online was doing the bird test trend. Message your ex something vague about a bird to see if they'd still respond instantly. I typed it out to Derek out of pure curiosity. He was 10 time zones away, literally studying abroad, posting beach pictures at 3 a.m. my time. I expected nothing, but almost immediately my phone buzzed. Derek replied back. "Where? Near your building, right?" I stared at the screen, waiting for the part where he'd reveal it was a joke, but nothing came. I blocked the number. What else was I supposed to do? Maybe it wasn't even him. Maybe he changed numbers overseas. I spent the next hour doom-scrolling on my couch, letting guilty amusement replace the unease. It was just a dumb trend. Who cared? At 6 p.m., I got up to take out the trash. The hallway lights flickered like they always did. My apartment building was old, the kind of place where everything hummed. I opened my door, took one step, and my foot slid. My heel skidded over something wet. When I glanced down, I screamed so loud my throat burned. A crow, or whatever used to be one, lay slumped across my welcome mat. Half its chest was gone, ribs poking out, feathers torn into clumps. The smell hit me next, metallic, rotting, like something pulled out of the bottom of a dumpster and left in the sun. Someone had placed it gently, deliberately, right against my door. I slammed it shut and locked it 3 times. My hands were shaking so hard I dropped my phone twice before opening the building security app. A few minutes later, my phone vibrated again. A message from an unknown number. "Don't block me again." My throat dried instantly. I reported everything to building security. They told me to come down to the office and review the hallway footage while they called the police. The security guard, an older guy named Ramon, fast-forwarded through the feed. "There," he said. He paused the footage. My heart hammered. A man from the 3rd floor crept into frame. In his hands, the crow. He had latex gloves on. He crouched by my door, carefully arranged the dead bird like someone placing a love letter, then stood still for a second, staring at my peephole. My skin crawled. He stepped out of frame, then came back minutes later, phone in hand, typing.
"We know this guy,"
Ramon said.
"Lives alone, not a troublemaker. Quiet."
That was exactly what scared me. But what snapped me cold was his face. He wasn't Derek, not even close. He was my neighbor, the same guy whose door creaked open whenever I passed by, like he always timed it. The same guy who accidentally checked his mail every time I walked toward the lobby.
"How did he get your ex's number?"
Ramon murmured. The answer hit me like ice. 3 weeks ago, a package of mine had been left in the lobby. It had my name and Derek's old number on the pickup slip. He must have pocketed it. My stomach churned. Police arrived within minutes. I stayed with Ramon while 2 officers went up to confront him. The monitor showed them knocking, stepping back and resting one hand near their holsters. The door opened. He didn't fight, but his face was unreadable, smooth, calm. He walked between the officers without looking at the security camera, until he did. His eyes slid upward, right at the lens, like he knew I was watching. I felt like he could see through it. They marched him to the elevator. Ramon put a hand on my shoulder.
"You're safe now,"
he said, but I didn't feel safe. If anything, I felt like something had just begun. They asked me to wait in the hallway while more officers checked his apartment. I didn't want to stand near the elevator, so I stepped up to the 3rd floor railing that overlooked the ground lobby. The elevator chimed. Doors opened. The officers escorted him out in cuffs, and that's when it happened. He lifted his head, slow, deliberate, and looked up straight at me. He smiled, a smile like he'd been waiting for this moment. I stepped back instinctively. One of the officers noticed and nudged him forward, but he didn't break eye contact until the doors closed behind them. I don't know why, but that smile terrified me more than the crow. As officers continued sweeping his apartment, one of them called down,
"Miss, you might want to see this."
Inside of his living room, a table was covered in photographs, not of Derek, not of random birds. Me walking to my car, talking to the mailman, and standing at the vending machine in the basement. Dozens of shots. Some were circled with a red marker, some dated. My breath caught.
How long?
One of the officers shook his head.
"Longer than we'd like to imagine."
I asked if I could go back to my apartment, and they said yes. They'd be knocking again soon to take more statements. I needed a minute to breathe. I stepped back onto my floor, feeling every shadow press against me. I inhaled shakily, turning toward my apartment, and froze. A small object lay on my welcome mat. My heart thudded painfully. I hadn't noticed it when I first left. I crouched slowly, flashlight shaking in my hand. The light caught something wet. I gagged. It was a woman's earring, still attached to a piece of torn flesh. An ear. A human ear. My mind spun. The officers had checked him. He'd been cuffed. He hadn't bent down. He hadn't passed my door. Unless he'd left it earlier, before the cops even came. A gift waiting for me to find. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept refreshing the news, praying to see a headline about a body found. A woman was identified. Anything. But deep down, in the darkest corner of my mind, I fear the truth more than anything. If they don't find her, he might come back for the rest of her. And he knows exactly where I live. That Thursday evening, my mom took me to the nearest 7-Eleven store for a Slurpee. When we got in, there were only 3 people besides us. The night shift guy behind a counter, a middle-aged woman buying scratch cards, and this weird dude. He was pacing slowly down the aisles, hands stuffed into the pockets of a filthy hoodie. He would stop and stare at everyone every 2 seconds. At first, I didn't pay attention. I was too busy agonizing over which Slurpee flavor I wanted. But when I looked up, I found him staring right at me. He didn't look away, which made me awkward, and even when I looked away, I could still feel him watching me. I told myself not to overthink it. But the second the woman at the register left, and the little bell on the door chimed behind her, the whole store changed. It was subtle, but heavy, like someone sucked the air out of the room. Mom was walking toward the refrigerated section to grab a water. I followed, and so did he. He drifted behind me, not even pretending to shop now. 1 second, he was 3 aisles away. Next, his reflection appeared in the freezer door right behind me.
Hey, what's your name, sweetheart?
That word, sweetheart, made my skin lurch. Before I could answer, Mom stepped between us.
Back off! She's a kid!
He smirked like he didn't care much.
Relax, I'm just talking. Not your fault your daughter's getting all the male attention and you're jealous.
My mom was stunned to see his audacity. She immediately called out to the 7-Eleven staff, complaining about the man harassing us. Mom then pushed me behind her as the employee rounded the corner. "Sir," the employee said firmly, "you need to leave, now." The man glared at him, muttering something under his breath, then stormed out of the store. The door banged so hard it rattled the windows. I felt my legs shaking. Mom squeezed my shoulder.
Don't worry. We're leaving too.
We paid quickly. The employee apologized and kept checking the window like he expected the guy to come back. Mom made a joke about how she needed a bubble to keep creeps away. I laughed weakly, trying to pretend I wasn't terrified. As we stepped outside, the cold air hit my face. The parking lot was mostly empty. I remember stepping closer to Mom, clutching my Slurpee too tight, thinking the worst was behind us. We walked toward our car. Then, it happened so fast, I still can't piece all of it together in order. Something moved, fast, from behind the black van parked next to us. A hand shot out, then an arm, then another. Before I could scream, the man was on me, grabbing my upper arm so hard it felt like fire ripping across my skin. "Come here!" he snarled, yanking me toward the van. His grip felt inhuman, not like a regular person grabbing you, but like claws digging in. I screamed, not a normal scream, one of those raw animal sounds that tears your throat. Mom lunged after me instantly, grabbing my other arm and pulling me back. For a second, I was the rope in a violent tug of war. The man punched her. The sound was something I'll never forget. A sickening thud, followed by my mom gasping. Her glasses flew off, skidding across the pavement. I saw blood spray, then drip down her lip. But she didn't let go. He punched her again, this time directly in the nose. I heard a crack sound. She cried out, but still pulled on me with everything she had.
Let go of my daughter!
My legs felt like lead. The man wrapped his arm around my waist, lifting me half off the ground. I kicked and thrashed, sobbing. He dragged me closer to the van's open sliding door. Mom was still holding on to me, but from the amount of injury she suffered, I knew she wouldn't be able to hold on for long. The man understood that too, so he kept laughing and pulling me harder. Just when I thought all hope was gone, I saw headlights. 2 cars pulled in simultaneously, tires crunching loudly. Both drivers started shouting. The man froze. It was only a second, but it was enough. He shoved me away and then bolted into the driver's seat of the van. The door slammed. The engine roared. The van shot out of the lot so fast the tires screeched. I hit the ground, palms scraping on the concrete. Blood smeared across my hands. My mom collapsed next to me, clutching her face, still reaching for me like she thought I'd slip away again. People ran toward us. One of them called 911, while the other checked up on my mom. My ears were ringing. My vision felt blurry, but I remember looking at my mom, her face swollen, blood running down her chin, and realizing she had taken every punch just to save me. At the hospital, doctors confirmed her nose was broken in 2 places. Her cheekbone was badly bruised. She needed stitches above her lip. I remember sitting beside her bed, crying all night. The police came. We watched the CCTV footage together. Seeing it from the outside made me sick. Seeing how close he came to getting me inside that van still haunts me. They caught him 3 days later. A detective called to say he'd been living out of that van, and that he'd done similar things before. But this time, he didn't succeed, because my mom fought like a woman with nothing to lose. Sometimes, when I wake up at night shaking, I still feel his hand on my arm. But then, I remember the other hand, the one that never let go. Mom's. The truth is, she didn't just save me in that parking lot. She saved every birthday I'll ever have, every tomorrow I might have never seen. I look at her now, healed but still carrying faint scars, and I realize they aren't marks of what was done to her. They're proof of what she fought for. People say I survived a monster that night. I didn't. I survived because my mother loved me more. I was 8 years old when this happened, and it took place in a quiet neighborhood in Normal, Illinois, in a small town on a street where nothing ever really happened. It was a rainy afternoon in early fall. My mom had gone out to run what she called a quick errand, and told me that I would be fine by myself for a little while. I remember sitting on the living room floor with a bowl of cereal, watching cartoons, while rain tapped steadily against the windows. The house felt unusually quiet, and the gray light outside made everything look dim and flat. At some point, the TV screen glitched, the picture froze, the audio warped into static, and then the screen went black. I sat there staring at it, waiting for it to come back on. That was when something red drifted past the living room window. First, I thought it was just a reflection from a passing car or something outside, but then it floated past again. Slower this time. It was a red balloon. It moved from left to right, just outside the glass, bobbing slightly in the rain. That was when I noticed that the living room window was not fully closed. It was open just enough for the rain to blow in. I remember feeling confused because I knew I had not opened it, and I was sure my mom had closed all the windows before she left. Before I could decide what to do, the balloon drifted inward. It slid through the opening and floated gently into the room. There was a thin white string tied to it, and something small was attached to the end, a folded piece of paper that seemed like a note. I stood up slowly and walked toward it. My heart was already beating faster, even though I did not yet understand why. I untied the paper and unfolded it with shaking fingers. It only had 5 words written on it. "I am coming for you." I stared at the note for a long time, trying to make sense of it. I thought that the balloon had drifted in from a nearby birthday party. Suddenly, I heard a tapping. It came from the front door. The sound was soft at the beginning, but then soon changed into the screeching of wood, like someone was clawing on our front door with their fingernails. I stood there, all alone in the house. When I couldn't bear the suspense anymore, I screamed, "Who's there?" The clawing stopped. There were footsteps walking away from the door. I kept staring at the door, thinking whoever's on the other side will be banging at it soon, but no such thing happened. I sighed in relief, thinking it was probably a cat or a raccoon, and I spooked myself for no reason when a soft voice called out to me from the half-open window.
Hey, kid.
I turned slowly and saw a man dressed like Pennywise peeking in through the open window. His face looked broken, like it was made of dry, cracked stone, and the paint was peeling into his skin. Dark red lines dripped from his eyes like blood, and his nose was wet and shiny. His eyes were yellow and angry, and they stared straight at me like they knew my name. He smiled slowly, almost unnaturally, as if his mouth wasn't meant to move that way, and I felt that if I blinked, he would be inside my room.
I have a surprise for you.
He spoke, mimicking the clown-like voice. I didn't wait. I just ran. I dove behind the couch and curled into a ball, pressing my hands over my mouth to keep myself from crying out. I heard the window slide open the rest of the way. The squishy sound of wet shoes touching the floor echoed into the house. He was moving through the house while humming Itsy Bitsy Spider.
The itsy bitsy spider climbed up the water spout. Down came the rain and washed the spider out.
At this point, I was praying for my mom to come home. The man tried the hallway door. It was locked. He tried the bathroom door. It was locked too. Then, I heard him walk toward the back of the house. I heard the back door handle rattle. I heard him whisper something I could not make out. A shadow passed under the living room doorway. My heart was pounding so hard that I thought he would hear it. I stayed perfectly still. Then, the front doorknob turned. At the same moment, bright headlights flashed through the living room windows. A car pulled into the driveway, and I heard my mom's voice outside. She yelled. The footsteps stopped. I heard a sudden rush of movement. The man bolted out, slamming the back door with such force that the glass cracked and eventually shattered, scattering shards all over the floor. Then, everything was quiet again. My mom burst inside seconds later. She found me crying in the corner behind the couch. I could barely speak. She called the police immediately and told them that she had seen a clown running away from the back of the house. The police searched the area. They found nothing that night. A few days later, they came back. They told my mom that our quiet next-door neighbor had been taken in for questioning. They found handmade clown costumes in his garage, with various makeups and clown masks. The cops also found pictures from inside other people's houses. It seemed like the man was obsessed with clowns and enjoyed scaring unattended kids for fun. He confessed to it, saying it was a prank, but breaking into someone's house while their kid is home alone is definitely not funny. It's been 15 years since that night, but I still remember the sound of his footsteps. I still remember the way he hummed that night. I live near County Road 6, and this happened on a Friday night when I left home after a huge fight with my husband. I drove down the empty highway, not knowing which way I was going. Then, at one point, I had to stop because tears were clouding my vision. I cried like a 6-year-old, sitting in my car for hours, then finally decided to pull over for the night. After driving for a few more minutes, I found this moderately-looking hotel on the side of the road. It wasn't very expensive. The staff was quiet and showed me to my room. I threw my bag on the dirty sofa and went to take a hot shower, thinking it would calm me down. But when I came back to that cold bed, stress caught up to me. I have suffered from sleep paralysis on and off since my early 20s. It only happens when I am emotionally overwhelmed. For those who have never had sleep paralysis, it's a horrifying state to be in. My mind stays awake, while my body shuts down, trapping me in between. I pushed all those negative thoughts down and lay down on the bed. I was already exhausted, and not to mention, emotionally drained. So within a few minutes, I dozed off. For the first couple of hours, I slept like a rock, but suddenly, I woke up. I knew immediately what was happening. My eyes were open, fixed on the ceiling. My chest felt crushed beneath a heavy, invisible weight. My arms and legs were numbly locked into place. My breathing came in shallow, panicked gasps that did not feel like they were getting enough air into my lungs. I realized I'm having another episode of sleep paralysis. The room felt colder than it should have been. The heater hummed weakly by the window, but the air against my skin was sharp, biting. At first, I noticed the bathroom. The lights were off. Immediately, I felt like something wasn't right in here. I never, ever sleep in complete darkness. I clearly remembered turning that light on before I went to bed. I also remembered hesitating at the switch. Now, the bathroom doorway was filled with thick darkness. I was trying my best to wake myself up, but I knew I couldn't because it wasn't something I could control. I was waiting for the moment to pass by when I felt a gush of wind on my face. The windows were closed, and I was 200% sure that the wind came from above, like someone breathed on me. My eyes moved toward the ceiling vent. For a few seconds, I saw only darkness. Then I saw bright green eyes. They hovered in the shadows just inside the vent, fixed directly on me. I got into panic mode. I could feel the fear in my bones, but I couldn't get up. I tried convincing myself that it was all my imagination, and there's no one actually inside that vent, when the vent cover made a soft, metallic creak. It shifted slowly, bending outward by mere inches. Dust slid down onto my pillow in thin gray streaks. For the next few seconds, the darkness in the vent sent me into hyperventilating. I tried even closing my eyes, but I couldn't. I kept staring at the dark vent, still believing I imagined those eyes, when a head slowly popped up. There was a man inside that vent now, and he was completely bald. His scalp reflected the faint outside light like polished bone. There were no eyebrows above those glowing eyes, no eyelashes framing them, no stubble, no pores. His face looked wrong in a way my brain could not process. His breathing was wet and heavy, echoing faintly inside the ducts. He just watched me for God knows how long. Then his shoulders pressed through. I heard his bones cracking as his upper body started coming down from the vent. I wanted to scream and run away as far as I could, but again, I was glued to the bed like a statue. Slowly, he dropped his arms down from the vent. It was too long. His fingers were thin and bony, the nails slightly darkened. His hand descended inch by inch. He was reaching out to me. My entire body got covered in sweat, but he didn't stop, just kept spreading his arm in my direction. I could feel cold rolling off my skin. The expression on his face was horrible. It was like he just wanted to get to me. My throat moved. No sound came. Suddenly, his index finger stopped less than an inch from my nose. He blinked for the first time, and then said in a raspy, demonic voice,
Most of them scream and leave, but you stayed. I like that.
I was still trying to process that all of this was happening in my head when lightning struck right outside my window. My body jolted upright as I screamed, the sound tearing violently from my throat. The bathroom light was on, and as I looked at the vent, it was sealed. The room was empty. I didn't spend a second more in that room, ran straight to my car and stayed in till sunrise. When the sun finally broke through the trees, I drove away to my sister's house. On the way, I told myself the same thing over and over, that it was all hallucinations. 3 weeks later, curiosity found me at 2 a.m. I was staring at my phone when I Googled that hotel. Most reviews were about poor maintenance and weak Wi-Fi, but one review sent a shiver down my spine. Someone mentioned waking up in the middle of the night with the feeling of being watched from the vent. I also found a second one where the reviewer mentioned seeing a dream about a bald man. My hands started shaking. I had never told anyone those details. To this day, I do not know if what I saw was real, but sometimes, when I lie awake at night, I feel a cold draft fall straight down to my face. It gets me a pill to fall asleep after that. Every time I think about that night, my hands shake. I want to make it very clear that this is not a campfire story I heard from someone else. This happened to me, exactly as I'm telling it. Last year, my mom passed away after a long-term illness, and I was her caregiver all those years. Even though taking care of her for years was mentally draining, her sudden passing made me realize how lonely I am in this world. My therapist suggested I spend time in nature to cope with the loss, so I went solo camping in Yosemite. I chose a designated campground that was known to be quiet during the off-season. I checked in, followed the rules, and set up my tent before sunset. That evening felt peaceful in a way that's hard to describe. I watched the sky fade from orange to deep blue. Pine trees stood like dark silhouettes against the stars. I cooked a simple meal, sat near my small lantern, and listened to the forest settle. Somewhere far away, water rushed over rocks. Insects chirped steadily. I remember thinking how soothing it felt, how alive the forest seemed without being threatening. By around 11, the cold crept in. I zipped my tent closed, turned off my headlamp, and lay in my sleeping bag enjoying the ambiance. The forest at night is a totally different world altogether. I heard a night owl hooting from a nearby tree and wondered if it felt as lonely as me. I drifted off, listening to the woods and remembering the pale, smiling face of my mom in her last days. I woke up at around 2 a.m. At first, I thought I heard a sound coming from inside my head, like a dream bleeding into reality. Then I heard it again and understood that I was fully awake. There was whispering outside my tent. And it wasn't of one person, it was two. One voice was calm, steady, and controlled. The other was shaky, rushed, and panicked. They were close enough that I could hear the soft scrape of boots on dirt between their words. Dread rushed down my spine. I forced myself not to move. I heard the calm voice very clearly say, "Not this one."
But she's alone, and that makes things much easier.
The other voice responded quickly, almost desperately. Every part of me went rigid. I focused on slowing my breathing because I suddenly felt sure that any sound I would make would give me away. My mind scrambled for explanations, but none of them made sense. Rangers do not whisper like that. Campers do not stand outside someone else's tent at 2 a.m. discussing whether to approach them. Who are these people? After a pause, the calm voice spoke again.
I said no. Why do you make everything so difficult? She won't fight. There's no one else here.
I pressed my hand against my mouth because I was on the verge of crying. Whoever these people are, they're planning to hurt me, maybe kill me, or even worse than that. I realized then that if they decided to come inside, there would be nothing to stop them. I knew I should not look. I knew it instinctively. Still, fear pushed me to do it. I moved slowly, inch by inch, until I could unzip the tent just enough to see out. Moonlight filtered through the trees, casting uneven shadows across the ground. As I peered out, I got the shock of my life. There was only one man standing outside. He was a few meters away from my tent. He was holding a knife loosely in his right hand. The blade caught the moonlight for a split second. He was fidgeting like there were voices playing in his head, and he couldn't decide whom he should obey. I watched him speak again. The calm voice came from his mouth.
Keep it low. You're gonna wake her up.
I felt the blood drain from my face. Now he moved to the other side, almost like he was a completely different person, speaking in that desperate tone.
Well, if she wakes up, then I'm definitely stabbing her in the chest.
He quickly changed sides again and yelled, "You'll do no such thing. I can't cover up for you all the time. We agreed on one girl every month. Stick to that." My vision blurred. I pulled back into the tent and closed the zipper as silently as I could. I clamped my hand over my mouth to stop myself from screaming. My entire body trembled uncontrollably. I was absolutely convinced that this man was suffering from multiple personality disorder, but that doesn't excuse his terrifying plan of one girl every month. There was a long pause outside. Then, the calm voice spoke one last time. "Go back." I heard footsteps moving away. He moved slowly, deliberately, crunching softly through the leaves. I stayed frozen, listening long after the sound faded. I did not move. I did not cry. I simply waited, counting my breaths, horrified that he might jump in, unzipping my tent at any moment. For the next hour, I lay there in complete silence. Every sound made my heart jump. At one point, far off in the woods, I heard him whistling creepily. It was an ominous tune, echoing strangely through the trees. I reached for my phone with shaking hands and dimmed the screen as low as it would go. I texted campground security, shared my location, and prayed the message went through. I did not dare make a call. Eventually, headlights cut through the trees after 15 minutes. I came out of the tent sobbing. They searched the area thoroughly. Flashlights swept the ground and the trees. After a while, one of the rangers came back to me with a serious expression. He told me they had found footprints circling my tent and then disappearing into the woods, but they couldn't find anyone. I don't think I'll ever grow the guts to camp solo again. I should have trusted my gut the moment my friend said the words blind date. I'm 24. I've had my fair share of awkward dates, situations, and ghosting, but Evan seemed different. Over texts, he was polite, funny in that dorky, self-deprecating way, careful with his words, he even said please and thank you. So when he suggested we meet at Wendy's, I agreed, thinking it was a safe choice. I walked in at around 7. The place was nearly empty, just a bored cashier at the counter and an old couple sharing fries in the corner. Evan was already seated by the window. He waved at me. "Hannah? Hi, over here." I smiled and walked closer. He looked exactly like his pictures, an innocent-looking hot guy.
Hey, sorry if I'm a little late.
"You're right on time." He beamed. "And you look beautiful." For the first 20 minutes, everything was so good. We shared nuggets, joked about how nobody actually knows what the Frosty is made of, and talked about movies, jobs, and family. He laughed a little too loudly at my jokes, but I chalked it up to nerves. Then, he asked me something that changed the mood of the date immediately. "So, how many guys have you slept with?"
Wait, what?
"You heard me," he said, tone flat. "Just need to know." I laughed, the kind of nervous laugh you do when you're praying at sarcasm.
That's kind of a personal question for a first date, don't you think?
His face didn't move, not even a smirk. His eyes stayed fixed, unblinking, like he was studying my reaction. I muttered, reaching for a fry to diffuse the awkwardness.
Let's, talk about something else.
"Why? We should be honest with each other if this is gonna work." "This? Work?" I didn't even know his middle name. I pushed my chair back slightly.
Evan, that's not an appropriate question. I'm not answering that.
His jaw clenched. For a moment, he just stared at me, like he was silently calculating something. Then he said, in a calm but chillingly firm voice, "If we're gonna date, you'll have to cut contact with every male friend you have. I don't want competition." I felt the pit in my stomach turn heavy.
Okay, that's it. The date is over.
I stood up to leave, but he grabbed my hand. Before I could understand what was happening, he yanked me back at the table, ordering me to sit down. His voice wasn't loud, which disturbed me more.
Evan, let go!
I hissed, trying to free my arm. His grip tightened. "Why are you overreacting? I'm being honest with you. That's what women want, right? Honesty?" I looked toward the counter. The cashier had gone to the back. The old couple was leaving. No one was watching. My throat felt tight.
I said, let go!
Instead of releasing me, he reached over to his tray with his free hand and picked up a fork. He held it loosely between his fingers, his grin stretching unnaturally wide. How about a little game to lighten the mood? Before I could answer, he stomped my hand and spread my fingers on the table. My heart slammed so hard, I could hear my pulse in my ears.
What do you think you're doing? Evan, don't you?
He brought the fork down fast, not on my hand, but in the space next to my thumb. The metal clinked sharply, then again, between my thumb and index finger, then again, faster, faster. Every stab of metal hit the table with frightening precision. He was laughing, actually laughing under his breath, like it was the most fun he'd had all week. "Ain't I terrific?" he said between breaths. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The fork kept slamming down, missing my skin by millimeters. The world narrowed to a blur of his hand and the rapid metallic tapping that echoed through the empty restaurant. My fingers trembled uncontrollably. I felt tears prick my eyes.
Stop.
I whispered, barely audible. He didn't. If anything, he sped up. Clink, 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 clink. Then, suddenly, he froze. The fork stopped midair, hovering over my hand. He slowly tilted his head to the left and stared at me with a blank expression. His eyes were filled with part amusement, part ownership, and part something darker. For a few seconds, he sat like that. I was shaking in fear. Then he loosened the grip, saying, "Relax, babe. Just a joke." My entire body jolted as if I'd been released from a rope. I ripped my hands away from him, stumbling backward so hard I almost fell from the chair. I didn't say a word, just grabbed my purse and ran out of the door into the cool night air, gasping as if my lungs had been underwater. Outside, under the flickering neon Wendy sign, I pressed my shaking hands to my knees, trying not to puke. My vision swam. My fingers tingled where he'd held them down. I heard the door chime behind me. I froze. Evan stepped out, hands in his pockets, rocking on his heels like nothing had happened. "Text me when you get home," he called happily. "I had a great time." I backed away until I was across the parking lot. He watched me the entire time, smiling like we had shared some intimate private joke. I blocked him before I even reached my car. I went home and showered twice, trying to scrub off the feeling of his hands. I told my friend never to set me up again, and I meant it. But the part that keeps me awake even now, 2 nights later, I found something in my mailbox. A Wendy's napkin, with a single fork mark stabbed through the center, and a note written in shaky handwriting. "You pulled away too fast. Next time, I won't miss." I still don't know how he found my address. I just know I sleep with the chain lock on now, and I don't go on blind dates anymore. I was driving west on Highway 417 toward Ottawa when the storm hit out of nowhere. One minute, the road was clear. The next, visibility dropped to almost nothing. Snow slammed against my windshield sideways, and the wind kept shoving my car just enough to make the steering wheel feel loose in my hands. My gas wasn't critically low, but it wasn't great either. I checked my phone. No signal. I hadn't seen another vehicle in over 15 minutes. That's when I noticed the hotel sign. It was barely visible through the blowing snow, standing crooked at the edge of a dirt road that cut off the main highway. A single flickering bulb swung violently beneath it. Night Rest Hotel, 2 kilometers. I slowed down and pulled onto the shoulder. Against my better judgment, I managed to get 1 bar of service and searched for the hotel. Every result said the same thing: closed, permanently. No website, no recent reviews. One article mentioned something about structural damage years ago. According to the internet, this place should not have existed anymore. But the sign was lit, and behind me, the storm had swallowed the road completely. Sitting in my car all night in sub-zero temperatures suddenly felt like the more dangerous option, so I turned onto the dirt road. The road was worse than I expected. Deep potholes, patches of ice under mud, trees closing in tight on both sides. It felt like I stepped into a different world where I'm not welcomed. After about 2 kilometers, I saw a neon sign buzzed weakly above the entrance. Night Rest Hotel. The building looked abandoned. Paint peeled off the walls. Windows were clouded with grime. Half the parking lot was buried under weeds and snow. There wasn't a single other car. I left the engine running for a full minute, trying to convince myself not to go inside. Then, a gust of wind slammed something against my car door so hard it made me jump. That decided it. The lobby smelled like mold, sewage, and something faintly metallic. The lights were dim and yellow, like they hadn't been changed in years. At the front desk, under a weak desk lamp, sat an old woman. She was hunched forward in her chair, crocheting with slow, twitchy movements. Her skin was gray and sagging. Thin white hair clung to her scalp like cobwebs. She didn't look up when I came in. "Hi, do you have any rooms for the night?" Her hands stopped moving. Slowly, she lifted her head and stared at me. Her eyes were cloudy and dull, like glass marbles that had been left in water too long. She looked me up and down without saying a word. Then, she reached behind her and pulled a single rusty key from the wall. Without turning around, she slid it across the counter toward me. "How much?" She raised one bony finger and pointed at a half-torn price chart taped to the desk. $10 per night. $10? That alone should have made me leave, but the storm outside was screaming, and I was exhausted. I paid her, took the key, and headed upstairs. The hallway on the second floor was long and narrow. The carpet was stained and damp in places. The only sound was the faint gurgle of pipes in the walls, like something breathing slowly behind them. My room was near the end of the hall. It was exactly as bad as I expected. The bed sheets were stained. Yellow water damage spread across the ceiling like an infection. The bathroom smelled like rot and rust. The lock on the door worked only after I slammed it twice. But I told myself it was only for one night. I left my bag by the wall, kicked off my shoes, and laid down fully dressed. Sleep took me almost instantly. I woke up in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, my heart racing for no clear reason. Suddenly, I heard footsteps outside my door, followed by low whispers. At least 2 voices, maybe 3.
You're inside. Out here. No, inside.
I slid off the bed as quietly as I could and crept to the door. I held my breath and looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. No one was there. I cracked the door open slowly and stepped into the hallway. The whispers were gone. The entire floor was silent. That's when I saw movement at the far end of the hallway near the stairwell. Something shifted in the darkness. A head pulled back behind the wall the second it realized I had seen it. Someone had been watching me. I didn't hesitate. I bolted back into my room and slammed the door shut, throwing my shoulder into it until the lock clicked. That was when the knocking began. 3 soft taps, then silence, then faint whispering right outside my door. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to run, but I was frozen in place. I checked the peephole again. Nothing. The hallway was empty every single time. This went on for hours. Knock, whisper, silence, over and over again. At some point near dawn, exhaustion knocked me out. When I woke up, the room was flooded with morning light. My door was wide open. My bag was dumped on the floor. All my belongings were scattered across the room, like someone had searched through every inch of my life. And there were muddy shoe prints on the sheets. One on the left side of my waist, one on the right. Like someone had stood over me while I slept and watched. I didn't look for the woman at the desk. I grabbed what I could, ran to my car, and peeled out of the parking lot. The storm was gone. The dirt road behind me felt unreal, like it had never existed. It's been years since that night. Nothing was stolen from me because I barely had cash or any valuable items. Whoever broke into my room that night decided to let me go because it wasn't worth stealing from me or murdering me. Should say I'm lucky. I swear this happened exactly the way I'm about to tell it. It was around 12:40 a.m. when Bailey shook me awake. Her hair was a mess, her eyes half open, and one hand was resting on her belly like she always did now that she was 8 months pregnant.
Kyle,
She whispered.
I'm starving. Please, can you get me something? I need chips and maybe a donut and something spicy.
Pregnancy cravings were unpredictable, but Bailey rarely woke me up for them. She looked genuinely uncomfortable. I sighed, but sat up. All right, I'll go.
You're the best.
She murmured. I grabbed my hoodie, slipped on my shoes, and stepped outside. It was a short ride to the 7-Eleven near our street, so I took my bike. The bright fluorescent lights of the 7-Eleven felt like stepping into a different world. The night shift worker nodded at me. I went straight to the shelves, grabbed Bailey's chips, 2 donuts, and even those sour gummy worms she loved. On the way to the register, I impulsively added a pack of smokes. I don't smoke much. Bailey hates the smell, so I usually sneak one outside before heading home. I paid, stuffed the junk food into my hoodie pocket, and stepped out. To the right of the entrance was the usual smoking spot. The problem was, the area was dark. The one light above the garage bins had been dead for months, and the whole corner reeked. Not just bad, rotten. I wrinkled my nose but shrugged it off. I just needed a few minutes. I leaned against the wall and pulled out a cigarette. I had it between my lips and my lighter in my hand when I heard a whimper. At first, I thought it was a cat, but it wasn't. It sounded like a grown man crying. The kind of muffled sobbing that comes from someone in pain. I turned my head slowly. The noise was coming from the far end of the dark corner. I pulled out my phone and turned on my flashlight. The beam cut through the shadows. A man was crouched down beside the trash bins. His face was buried in his arms as he rocked back and forth. He wore filthy, torn clothes covered in grime. His shoulders looked like he was crying or maybe freezing. Hey man, you okay? The rocking stopped. He even stopped crying. Slowly, way too slowly, the man lifted his face. I swear my whole body locked up when the light hit him. His eyes were stretched, like he'd opened them too far. His left eye twitched like he was trying to focus. The left side of his face was torn open. Raw, red flesh, like something had ripped off a chunk of his cheek. And hanging off his fingers were tiny pieces of skin stuck under his nails. His lips and chin were wet with blood, his own blood. That's when the realization hit me. He had done that to himself. He stared at me with those twitching eyes, head tilted like I was some kind of puzzle he was trying to solve. I backed up slowly, whispering, Okay, I'm gonna go. In one sudden jerky motion, the man stood up, and he was huge, at least 7 feet tall, towering over the trash bins. His shadow stretched across the pavement. I gasped. He looked small while crouching, but now he seemed impossible, almost deformed in height. His head twitched sideways, and without breaking eye contact, he raised a trembling hand to his wounded cheek and started digging into it. He hooked his dirty nails into the torn flesh, peeled back a piece, and, I swear on my life, popped it into his mouth, chewing, slowly, deliberately, like he had done this before, many, many times. The rotten smell I noticed earlier suddenly made sense. It was him. I stumbled backward, sprinting across the parking lot, but I was so shocked by the horrible sight that I didn't notice the curb nearby. My toe caught it. I went flying forward and hit the ground hard. My chin cracked against the pavement so violently, I swear my vision flashed white. Warm blood poured down my neck as the skin split open. I scrambled to my bike, hands shaking so badly I could barely grab the handlebars. Behind me, I could hear him coming, his bare feet slapping against the ground. I tried starting the bike, but the fear caught me. "Start!" I yelled. "Please, please start!" The engine sputtered once, twice. The man was almost at my back. I could hear his breathing, ragged, hungry. Finally, the engine roared to life. I kicked off. The bike jerked forward. I was relieved that I'm going to get out of this situation. But as I shot out of the lot, the man leaned in, impossibly close, and spat at me. A warm, thick splash hit the side of my face. I screamed, nearly losing control of the bike as he started laughing. This horrible, broken, choking laugh, clapping his hands like a child amused by a trick. I sped away until the man disappeared into the distance. When I got home, Bailey was waiting at the door. One look at me, the blood, the trembling, and wild eyes, and she knew something horrible had happened. I told her everything while she pressed a towel to my chin to stop the bleeding. She didn't question a single part. She cried and held me, and for the first time that night, I let myself fall apart. We went straight to the ER to get my chin stitched, and then to the doctor the next morning, terrified of what had landed on my face. I don't know how long that man's spit stayed on me before I washed it off, but I swear I can still feel it sometimes. People laugh when I tell them the story, say it sounds made up or exaggerated, but I know what I saw. I know how he looked, how he smelled, how close he came to touching me. I haven't been inside a 7-Eleven after dark since that night. I've never told this story without feeling uncomfortable, because even now, years later, it still makes my skin crawl in a way I cannot fully explain. I was 12 when it happened, and I was old enough to know when something felt wrong, even if I couldn't explain why. What I saw that night did not chase me, threaten me, or even touch me. It simply watched, and that somehow felt worse than anything else ever could. It all started in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, near my cousin's place outside a little town called Strasburg. My cousin Trevor lived way out in the countryside, where the roads didn't have sidewalks, and the fields went on forever. That night, there was a small traveling fair set up in a dirt lot near Route 741. Nothing fancy, just a Ferris wheel, a few carnival games, and some food stands that smelled like grease and sugar. I spent most of the evening stuffing myself with junk food, cotton candy, funnel cakes, fries, soda, anything I could convince my aunt to buy me. Trevor kept running off to play ring toss and shoot basketballs at crooked hoops, but I stayed near the food stalls, feeling full and happy at the same time. I was contemplating my decision of whether to ride the Ferris wheel with a tummy filled with junk food when my eyes darted to a single yellow lamp posted by the tree line. There was a woman dressed like a clown standing under it. She had a pale white face with sharp black star-shaped eye makeup, hollow, staring eyes, and a small red nose. Her mouth was painted into an exaggerated red grin. Her hair was tied into high pigtails, and she wore a black and white striped outfit with a bow. She wasn't entertaining anyone. She was just standing there, slowly moving her hands like she was trapped behind invisible glass, pushing and pulling at nothing. People walked right past her without reacting, like she wasn't even there. I watched her for a while because it felt strange. Then she stopped. She slowly turned her head and looked straight at me. Her eyes were dark and flat, and they didn't blink. She lifted her hand and gave me a slow wave. It felt awkward not to respond, so I raised my hand and waved back. She waved again. I waved again too. Then she waved a third time, slower, her fingers curling inward like she was beckoning me over. That's when the feeling in my stomach changed. She just kept waving. I dropped my hand and turned away. I found Trevor and tugged on his sleeve. "There's this creepy clown lady over there," I said quietly. "She keeps waving at me." Trevor frowned and looked where I pointed. Where? I looked too, but there was nobody there. Only the lamppost illuminated an empty patch of dirt near the trees. We brushed it off. I figured she'd walked away. About 20 minutes later, my stomach finally gave up on me. I felt like I was going to throw up, and I didn't want to do that at the fair. So I told Trevor I was walking back to his house. It was about a 10-minute walk down a quiet country road. The fair noises faded behind me as I carried on. Crickets chirped in the grass. A light breeze moved through the cornfields. The area felt so isolated that I didn't even see any cars driving by. I was walking at a casual pace, thinking about my choices of fair food, when I heard a whistle. It came from my left, and I saw her again. She was standing under a streetlight along the road. My heart jumped. How did she know I'd be here? I slowed down, and she kept staring at me, then raised her hand and waved like before. I didn't want to panic, but every nerve in my body was telling me something was wrong with this woman. I didn't wave this time. I just sped up and walked past her. I could feel her eyes on me while leaving her behind. Seconds later, I glanced back, and she was gone. I kept walking, a bit faster this time. A few minutes later, I again looked back to see if she was following me, but there was no sign of her. Then, I heard the second whistle, this time from my right. That crawling feeling returned. I looked up. She was there again, standing on the side of the road, waving with a death stare. I started to run. I looked back, and she wasn't there anymore. But every few seconds later, she kept appearing on the side of the road. Every time I saw her, she was under the next streetlight, a little closer than before, always waving, never making a sound. It felt like she wasn't walking at all, like she was skipping forward through space, and I have no idea how she did that. It was like a never-ending nightmare. I see her, she waves and then disappears, only to reappear with a creepy whistling sound, and then wave back at me. I realized what a grave mistake I made by interacting with her. By the time I saw Trevor's house at the end of the road, I was sprinting. I burst inside and slammed the door, locking it with shaking hands. My aunt and uncle jumped up from the couch.
There's a clown woman outside,
I gasped.
She followed me home from the fair. She keeps appearing like a ghost.
They exchanged looks, and my uncle grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside, but he saw no one. The next day they asked around at the fair. Nobody had seen any clown like I described. The organizers said they hadn't hired any performers at all. No one believed me, except me. I remember tugging under bedsheets for the next 2 days after the incident. I didn't leave the room, and I got severe diarrhea as well. But even more than the stomach ache, I was scared the clown would show up inside my room at night. She could show up whenever she wants. Since that day, I stay well away from clowns. I work a regular 9-to-5 job, but the gym during my lunch break is the one place where I feel completely in control. It's usually quiet, just a handful of people lifting, minding their own business. I've always liked it that way. That day, I slipped into the weight room, tied my hair up, set my water bottle down next to the squat rack, and started my warm-up. I wasn't even listening to music, just enjoying the silence. I'd loaded my bar for a second set when I suddenly heard a voice behind me.
Hey, you need a spot?
I turned and saw a guy I'd never seen before, late 30s maybe, sweating hard like he'd been lifting for hours. He was standing too close.
No thanks, I'm good.
You sure? You shouldn't be lifting alone.
I forced a smile.
Really, I'm fine.
He didn't walk away. Instead, he circled around me, hands on his hips, eyes raking my form like he was inspecting something he owned. I brushed it off, thinking maybe he was just overly enthusiastic, but then he positioned himself right behind me.
Okay, go ahead.
I froze.
I said I'm good.
He didn't move. His breath was practically on my neck.
You don't gotta be scared. I know what I'm doing.
A chill crawled up my spine. I set the bar down and stepped away. Immediately, his expression twisted into anger, as if I had personally insulted him. "Why did you stop?"
I didn't ask you to spot me.
He slammed the barbell onto the rack so hard it rattled. "Why are you acting weird? I said I'm helping you." The sudden aggression punched fear straight into my chest. I grabbed my water bottle and walked toward the cable machines, pretending I didn't hear him, but he followed. Every step I took, he took too. Heavier, faster. "You wasted my time. You women love doing that." I ignored him and started adjusting the cable height. He barked, "Don't walk away from me!" I jumped. His voice cracked through the gym like a whip, turning heads. A man on the treadmill paused his run, watching us. Two women stretching exchanged looks. I tried to keep my voice steady.
Please, leave me alone.
He smiled, not a friendly smile, a mocking, twisted one. "You accepted my spot, and now you're acting like a victim?"
I never accepted anything.
"You're clearly leading me on." I was shocked to see the dude being a jerk. I wasn't having any more of his delusional crap. I headed straight toward the front desk where the gym attendant usually sits, but before I could get there, he stepped in front of me and blocked my path.
Move!
"No," he muttered. "Not until you apologize."
For what?
"For wasting my time, for making me look stupid." I tried to walk around him, but he grabbed my arm hard. Pain shot up to my shoulder, and I couldn't keep calm anymore. I put a tight slap on his face, gathering every bit of energy in me. He stood there, expressionless, with his cheek glowing red, eyes too wide. Then, his fingers dug into my skin, and suddenly, his voice changed, a low growl. "You owe me! Come back to the weights!"
I don't owe you anything!
"Don't raise your voice at me!" He hissed, tightening his grip. I yanked my arm, but he only held tighter. Panic surged through me, and I felt tears sting the back of my eyes. I hate that, crying when I'm scared. It only encouraged people like him. A guy nearby, maybe in his 20s, stepped forward, telling him to leave me alone. A man slowly turned his head towards him. The man shoved him. The young guy stumbled backward into a weight rack. I tried to pull away again, but the man started twisting my arm. At point, I could even hear a soft crack of my bones.
Stop! Help! Somebody help! Call!
Before I could finish, security burst through the double doors. Two big guards with pissed faces, and I suddenly remembered there are security cameras in the gym. The man didn't move at first. Then he slowly lifted his head like he'd been bothered in the middle of something. His grip loosened just slightly, enough for me to wrench free and run behind the guards. They grabbed him, pinning his arms. He exploded like a wild animal, spitting, kicking, screaming all at once. "She slapped me! She's the one harassing me!" The guard shouted, wrestling him toward the ground, but he just kept screaming and thrashing. It took both guards and the kid he shoved earlier to restrain him until he was finally pinned. The front desk attendant called the police immediately, and I stood there shaking, clutching my bruised arm, trying to stop my breath from coming in sickening gasps. I felt like I had just run a marathon through fear itself. When the police arrived, the man didn't shut up for a second. "This is bullshit! I was helping her! That's the thanks I get?" The officers handcuffed him and started asking questions. One of them approached me gently. "Ma'am, has he bothered you before?"
No.
I said, swallowing hard.
I've never seen him until today.
The officer's expression darkened. "Well, you're not the first woman he's done this to." I blinked. "He's been banned from 2 other gyms in this district. Same behavior, aggression toward female members, escalating each time." When they finally dragged him out, he stared right at me, eyes blazing with something that didn't feel like normal anger. The officer pulled him away and shut the door behind him. I didn't go back to my desk after that. I didn't even go back to the locker room. I just walked straight to my car and sat inside, with my hands shaking on the steering wheel. I didn't feel safe until I locked my apartment door behind me hours later. That night, as I lay in bed, every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face inches from mine. There are some encounters that don't just scare you. they change you. This was one of them. If I had known what that night would turn into, I never would have hit go live. Rhea and I had been joking all week about trying the bird theory trend. We weren't the type to take TikTok seriously, but it was foggy, eerie, and perfect for content. The kind of mist that clung to your clothes and swallowed sound. The lake behind us was a sheet of shifting gray, breathing with the cold. "Ready?" I asked, lifting my phone. Rhea rolled her eyes.
If I say something stupid, cut it.
We started walking along the boardwalk trail. The fog was so thick the lampposts glowed like dying candles. People loved atmospheric stuff like this, and within seconds we had 100 viewers. Comments flew by. Bird test! Bird test! OMG, this fog! Kiss already! I turned the camera toward Rhea, smiling. I saw a cute bird earlier. I didn't get to finish. A shape materialized behind us in the frame. Tall, sudden, silent. Not from the path, from the direction of the lake. Rhea gasped and spun around. A man stood there. A gray jacket, muddy jeans, no backpack, no dog, nothing. "Oh," I said automatically, lowering the phone a little. Sorry, man, didn't see you." He took one step closer. His shoes left wet prints behind him, as if he'd walked through mud or deeper water. "Birds aren't out today," he said, voice light, almost cheerful. "Only the quiet things come out in this kind of fog." Rhea's hands slipped into mine, fingers ice cold. I tried to laugh it off. "Yeah, well, it's just a TikTok trend." The live stream kept going in my other hand. People were spamming. "Who is that behind you? He came out of nowhere. End the live. Bro, he is not normal. Look at the water behind him. What is that?" I didn't dare check. The man looked at Rhea. His smile twitched wider. "You two shouldn't be out here," he said softly. "You never know what's hiding in the water." Rhea tugged my arm urgently.
Daniel, let's go.
He waved at us, not a friendly wave. Slow, robotic. His eyes didn't blink. They followed us as we walked backward, then turned and hurried down the foggy trail. Once he disappeared from sight, I ended the life by shaking fingers.
What the hell was that?
Rhea choked out. I don't know. Probably just some weird hiker. But I didn't believe that, and neither did she. We got home, locked every door, closed every curtain. My phone buzzed nonstop. Notifications from TikTok. I opened the stream replay. The comments were worse than before. "He walked in from the lake. Rewatch. What was that behind him? Look at 15 seconds. Daniel, this is not a joke. Call someone. Call police." My stomach twisted. I scrubbed through the footage. At 14 seconds, the fog behind the man shifted. A deeper shape moving in the mist. Too wide and tall to be a person, like something rising. Rhea saw it too. She covered her mouth.
Daniel, I don't like this.
I didn't either. At 11:57 p.m., the doorbell rang. Then, louder knocking. I froze. Rhea's voice trembled.
Don't answer it.
But then a voice called through the door. "Police, we need to speak with you." Rhea sagged against the wall in relief. I opened it carefully. 2 officers stood in the hallway, serious, tense, hands near their belts. "Are you Daniel Morris?" one asked. "Yes." "We need to see the live stream you recorded tonight at Lake Hollow Trail, immediately." Rhea clung to my arm.
Why? What's going on?
The officers exchanged a look. "A man escaped custody this afternoon," the older one said. "We have reason to believe he was near the lake this evening." My throat felt like it sealed shut. Escaped custody for what? "Double homicide," the officer said flatly. "He killed a woman near that same lake 2 hours before you went live." Rhea swayed. I had to hold her up. The officer continued. "When your video appeared on our radar, we recognized the man in it." I felt ice spread through my chest. "You're telling me the guy who walked up behind us was the suspect," the officer said.
Yes?
Rhea started crying quietly. My knees almost buckled. "We didn't know, he just appeared." The officer nodded grimly. "He does that." I still try to imagine how it would have been if one of us had met him alone that night. I get flashes of his face when our eyes met, a smirk on his lips and the eyes glowing wide like he had 1,000 more faces hidden under that one. I now remember he was constantly rubbing his fingers while talking to us. His fingers had a dark, moist liquid smeared on them. Was it blood? I think you know the answer. I even asked the officer separately about his crimes. He told me the man had no contacts or friends in this town. He was first seen on the night of Halloween last year. Hours later, a mugged, throat-slit man was found in that same area. Honestly, I'm just glad we made it alive. So to everyone going bonkers to create an identity on social media, please be careful. I see young kids exploring abandoned places and posting those videos on YouTube. Just make sure you choose a safe spot, because shady places have shady demons. I'm writing this because pretending it never happened hasn't worked. For months, I tried to tell myself it was fear, exhaustion, alcohol, or some shared hallucination brought on by being too deep in the woods. But my husband and I both saw the same thing, and neither of us has ever been the same since. What I'm about to tell you is true, exactly as I experienced it, and I still have no explanation for it. Last fall, my husband Nigel and I decided to go camping to reconnect. Life had been loud lately, full of work stress, phone screens, and constant noise. He suggested Red River Gorge, Daniel Boone National Forest in Kentucky, about which he had read online. With secluded sandstone cliffs, lush woods, and fewer crowds than national parks, it was a perfect opportunity to appreciate nature. Red River Gorge is known for its dense hardwood forests, where trees grow tall and eerily uniform in some hollows. It offers deep isolation, just minutes away from access roads. I told myself it'll be good for us. We arrived in the late afternoon. While my husband started setting up the tent, I volunteered to collect firewood. I walked around the campsite, picking up dried tree branches. The dry leaves crunched under my boot when I noticed something ahead of me. I spotted a gunny sack lying near the tree line. I wasn't getting a clear view from the distance, as it almost blended into the background. It was positioned oddly, though, not tossed carelessly, but placed. I stared at it for several seconds, then forced myself to look away. People leave things behind all the time, I told myself. Returning to the tent, I mentioned it casually to Nigel. I said that there was some kind of sack lying out there. Nigel barely reacted. He said it was probably trash left by previous campers and went back to hammering tent stakes into the ground. Seeing him unbothered, I too brushed it off. As the sun set, the forest changed. The temperature dropped suddenly, and the sounds grew sharper. The chirping of crickets, accompanied by howls of the coyotes, created a chilling atmosphere around. As Nigel marinated the chicken to roast for dinner, my eyes constantly darted to the tree line, at that gunny sack. A moonlight illuminated weirdly enough. We lit the campfire as darkness settled in. The fire helped, throwing warm light across our small clearing. I opened drinks and played soft music. Nigel cooked the chicken, unaware of the worries clouding my mind regarding the sack. Minutes later, he came close, and we cuddled near the fire. I tried to focus on the moment, on my husband's laughter, on the crackle of burning wood. Still, every time the fire flickered, my eyes drifted toward the trees. That was when I noticed something was wrong. The sack was not where it had been before. It was moved closer. Not dramatically close, but close enough that the change was noticeable once I compared it to the surrounding trees.
Hey, do you think it moved?
I asked Nigel while pointing at the sack. He stared at it for a few seconds, then told me he can't spot the difference. Seeing me thinking about it, Niall joked that the booze and darkness were playing with my head. I wanted to believe him, so I did. We enjoyed a tasty dinner and watched the fireflies behind the bushes. It was a magical moment, and for a while, I almost forgot about the gunny sack. We made love by the firewood and eventually went to the tent to get some sleep. I don't recall how long I was asleep, but I woke up with the urge to relieve myself. I grabbed a flashlight and stepped a short distance away from the tent. The beam of light swept across the ground, and I froze. Drops of sweat dripped down my forehead, even in that cold. The sack was now less than 15 meters away. The light revealed details I had not seen before. The fabric was stiff in places, darkened by stains. At first, I thought it was mud, but then it hit me. The stains were of dried blood. I started breathing heavily. My legs shook so badly I had to grab the tent wire. I ran back to the tent and woke my husband in a panic. I told him we had to leave immediately. When he saw the sack for himself, his expression changed completely. There was no dismissing it now. He told me to pack up quietly and quickly because there was no way we were going to check it like those stupid characters from horror movies. We shoved things into bags and began to leave. I was walking as fast as I could, and so was Nigel. But suddenly, we heard rustling behind us. We turned around together. The sack was moving. It wasn't rolling or being pushed by the wind. It was moving like some living thing was inside it. My eyes stopped blinking, and Nigel grabbed my hand in fear. The top of the sack shifted, and two human hands pushed out. They were skinny, muddy, and bleeding from knuckles. I screamed. Nigel pulled me, and we started running. But on our way out of the clearing, I looked back one last time, pointing the flashlight at the sack, and I saw a man's head emerging from it. His face was muddy and soaked in blood, eyes wide and fixed on us. I thought I would faint, but somehow managed to reach the ranger station. We pounded on the door until someone answered, and when we tried to explain what we had seen, the ranger did not laugh or question us. His face went pale. He told us that 6 months earlier, a man's body had been found in those woods. He had been murdered by his wife and her boyfriend and stuffed into a gunny sack. Since then, campers had reported seeing it at night, but we were the first ones to see the man. We never camped after that.
People always ask why I jog so early in the morning. Honestly, I don't know anymore. Maybe it's the silence before the world wakes up. Or maybe it's because my dog, Buzzo, a golden cocker spaniel, won't let me sleep past 6 a.m. That morning started like any other winter jog, except for the fog. It wasn't the usual soft mist you can squint through. This fog was thick, dense enough that I couldn't see more than a few feet ahead. It swallowed the path, the trees, even the cornfields that stretched endlessly along the outskirts of town. Everything beyond arm's reach looked smudged out, but Buzzo didn't care. His tail was wagging wildly, floppy ears bouncing as he trotted beside me, occasionally sniffing the frosted ground. I tugged my hoodie tighter around my neck. "Come on, Buzzo, in and out, quick lap, then breakfast." The cold air stung my lungs with each breath. The only sounds were our footsteps and the faint jingle of Buzzo's collar, until something else slipped through the silence. A rustle, not the wind, not an animal, something heavier. I stopped. Buzzo followed. The fog wrapped around us like a curtain, muffling everything. I stared at the cornfields, just a towering mass of blurred stalks and shadows. Probably a deer. I mumbled, more to convince myself than anything. We kept moving, but the unease clung to me like the wet mist settling on my skin. Then I heard it again, another rustle, lower this time. Buzzo's body went stiff, his ears pricked forward, and a low growl rolled out of his throat. I'd heard him bark, whine, howl, but rarely growl like that. It was the kind of sound he made only when he sensed real danger. Hey, buddy, come on." I gently tugged his leash. "Let's go back, fog's getting bad." But before I could take a full step, Buzzo tensed, and then he bolted.
He yanked the leash right out of my hand and dove headfirst into the cornfield, disappearing into the fog in seconds. "Buzzo!" My voice echoed into the gray nothingness. "Buzzo, come back!" Panic surged through me like a punch to the chest. I sprinted after him, tearing through the icy stalks, wet leaves slapping against my face. The fog made everything disorienting. I couldn't tell how far I'd gone or which direction the path was anymore. Then, I heard Buzzo barking, furious, rapid, frantic. He'd never barked like that in his life. I forced myself deeper into the corn, branches scraping my arms. My breathing was loud, too loud. Every other sound felt swallowed by the fog. The barking grew louder. All of a sudden, it was overlapped by a spine-chilling scream, a man's scream. My heart lodged in my throat. "Buzzo, where are you?" I crashed through a final wall of stalks and stumbled into a clearing, a flattened patch of mud and broken corn stalks. And there they were. Buzzo stood planted in front of a man curled on the ground. My dog's teeth were bared, fur bristling, his body shaking with rage. The man scrambled backward, his face pale and wild-eyed. His right hand was dripping blood. A rusty knife lay a few feet away, knocked into the mud. "What the hell?" I whispered. The man looked up at me, eyes frantic. Call him off, man! Call him off! He tried to kill me!" "He's a dog," I said. "He doesn't just attack." But even as I said it, I knew the truth. He didn't attack. He protected. I stepped closer, and the man flinched, clutching his bleeding hand against his chest. "Get your dog away from me!" he yelled. "Buzz," I said firmly, "come here." But Buzzo didn't move. His entire body was locked onto the man with laser focus. His growl deepened. I followed his gaze, and that's when I saw it. A thick rope partially buried under the leaves along with a torn backpack, footprints circling the clearing, waiting places. This wasn't a hiker. This man had been hiding, lurking, waiting possibly for someone like me. Everything clicked at once. The rustling, Buzzo's reaction, the knife. He hadn't been attacked. Buzzo had stopped him. The man's expression shifted the moment he realized I understood. His panic faded into something colder, calculating. He lunged for the knife, but Buzzo beat him to it, launching forward with a snarl. The man jerked back, slipping in the mud. Buzzo's teeth clamped onto his wrist again. The scream that tore out of him was worse this time, raw and choked. I ran in, grabbed Buzzo's collar, pulling him back. The man scrambled to his feet and bolted into the fog, disappearing so fast it was like the fog swallowed him whole. I held Buzzo tightly as he shook with adrenaline. "Good boy, you're okay. You did great." My hands were trembling uncontrollably. I fumbled for my phone and dialed 911. When the operator answered, the words practically tumbled out of me. "There's a man. He had a knife. My dog, there's blood. Send someone, please." Police arrived within minutes, fog still thick enough that I heard them before I saw them. They combed the cornfield and found the knife, the blood trail, the rope. Not the man. He'd escaped. But later, they told me he'd been reported multiple times, lurking along jogging trails, targeting early runners. "He was hiding there to rob someone," the officer said. "If your dog hadn't gone after him, you would have walked right past his hiding spot." I looked down at Buzzo, who was sitting between my feet, panting and wagging his tail like none of this was out of the ordinary. That morning, I realized something terrifying. I had walked past that spot every day. Every day. Someone had probably been watching me, studying my routine, waiting for the fog or an early morning when I was alone. I didn't sleep well for weeks after that. Every rustle, every shadow, every foggy morning made my skin crawl. But Buzzo? He slept curled up against my chest every night, warm and soft, as if protecting me, even in my dreams. Sometimes people say animals sense things we can't. That morning, I learned they're right. I thought I was walking my dog for exercise. Turns out, he was walking me for protection. If you've ever worked late shifts, you know that tired, foggy feeling you get after midnight. The kind where even walking into a brightly lit 7-Eleven feels like stepping into a dream. That's exactly where my head was the night everything happened. I wasn't expecting anything except grabbing an energy drink so I could stay awake long enough to drive home. I headed straight for the fridge in the back. I grabbed a canned energy drink, shut the door, and that's when I heard it. A small whisper behind me.
Please help me. Don't let him see me.
I turned around, and for a second, I thought I imagined it. But then, I saw a girl, barely 15, crouched between the snack shelves, eyes wide, mascara smeared down her cheeks like she'd been crying for hours.
I need help. He's here. He's looking for me.
Okay, it's all right. Just come with me.
Is he inside?
She asked. No, I said, but the cashier can call someone. She hesitated, peeking over the shelves toward the glass door. Then she moved closer, staying behind me like I was a shield. We walked toward the counter slowly. The employee on shift immediately caught the look on my face and straightened up. Before I could answer, the bell above the door chimed. She gasped and dropped behind me. I turned to see a man in a dark hoodie, scanning the store like he already knew who he was looking for. And something about the intensity in his eyes rang the alarm bells for me.
That's him.
She whispered, voice cracking.
Please don't let him get me.
Call 911, I told the cashier. The employee didn't even question it. The man in the hoodie started towards us, hands out like he was pleading. Let me talk to her. You don't understand. The girl behind me was shaking so violently I could feel it through my jacket.
Don't listen to him. He wants to hurt me.
She cried. And the way she said it, there was so much fear there, so much certainty that I believed her completely. I yelled at him to back off. He slammed his palm against a table nearby, letting out his frustration. Please, just move out of my way. I need to take her back or else... She's not going anywhere with you, mister. The cops will be here soon. I didn't trust him. I didn't trust anything about the situation except the fact that the girl was terrified. We waited. Longest 4 minutes of my life. The girl kept pacing behind the counter, gripping a napkin dispenser like she thought she'd need to defend herself. She kept whispering,
Don't let him catch me.
Then the sirens came. 2 cruisers pulled into the lot fast, lights flashing, tires screeching slightly as they stopped. I felt a wave of relief so strong my knees almost buckled. Okay, you're safe, they're here. But the moment the officers stepped out, something felt wrong. They didn't look confused. I thought they'll restrain the man, but instead they walked straight toward him and asked, Where's the girl? Before we could even react, the man pointed at me. 2 police officers stormed past me, and tackled her. She screamed, not the scared kind I'd heard earlier, but a violent, almost feral shriek. She kicked, cursed, clawed at the floor as they pinned her wrists behind her back.
No! Let me go! Let me go! Don't take me!
What are you doing? I yelled, stepping forward. She's the victim! He's the one following her! The officer nearest me shot me a sharp glance. She's the suspect. He's her father. I froze. What? Father? The man stepped closer, chest heaving, eyes bloodshot. Up close, he looked less like a monster and more like a man who hadn't slept in days. She ran, he said quietly, voice shaking. She hurt someone, stabbed a woman. I've been looking for her since 7 o'clock. My stomach flipped. The girl's screams turned into sobs, raw and hysterical, as they lifted her off the floor.
You're lying! I didn't do anything! She deserved it! She tried to take my stuff!
She wailed at her father. Her father closed his eyes, tears slipping out. I'm sorry, he whispered to her. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to help you. The officers pushed her outside toward the cruiser. She fought them every step of the way. I stood there, unable to move, My brain couldn't reconcile the terrified kid I just tried to protect with the violent suspect they were dragging from the store. She told me you were going to hurt her, I said. Her father didn't look angry at me. If anything, he looked grateful. I'm glad someone stayed with her, he said quietly. Thank you. She's been running from everyone tonight. We just didn't want her to hurt herself or anyone else. I thought I'd feel stupid or ashamed for misreading the situation so badly, but all I felt was hollow. Because the truth is, if I hadn't stepped in, if she'd run again, someone else could have gotten hurt. Maybe another innocent person. The police drove away with her still screaming in the back seat. The father followed them in his car, hands trembling on the steering wheel. And then it was just me and the cashier again. The Slurpee she had held so tightly sat on the counter, melting into a dark red puddle. I keep thinking about her eyes that night, how terrified she looked, how convincing she was, how easy it was to believe her. And now, I keep thinking about something else. The next time someone begs me for help, will I know if I'm helping the right person? Because that night at 7-Eleven taught me something I wish I didn't know. Sometimes the person you're protecting is the one you should be afraid of. I swear I didn't mean for any of this to happen. It started as a joke, some stupid TikTok trend, the bird theory. Ask your partner if they saw a bird, record their reaction, and the internet decides if they're your soulmate. Harmless, dumb, whatever. Maya and I had been dating for about 3 months. It was still new enough that everything felt light and easy. Easy. We were sitting at a cafe we went to every Sunday, her scrolling her phone, me pretending I wasn't planning to pull a prank. I hit record, angled the camera casually, and said, "Hey, I saw a bird outside today." She blinked, shrugged, and went back to her latte.
Okay. Cool.
The video was boring, anticlimactic, but I posted it anyway. Captioned it, "Guess she's not my soulmate. #birdtheory." 30 minutes later, it had 10,000 views. By the time Maya dropped me off at my apartment, it had hit 100,000. The comments were brutal, but I didn't read them. Not yet. I just assumed people were being dramatic, like always. Maya texted me at 7 p.m.
What did you post? Ben? People are tagging me. Why are they sending me my own face?
I told her I'd delete it when I got home. I didn't rush. I should have. At around 10 p.m., she stopped replying. I figured she was asleep. By midnight, the video hit 4 million views, and then everything cracked open. At 12:40 a.m., I was brushing my teeth, scrolling through comments with foam in my mouth, feeling my stomach sink lower and lower with each one. Your girl looks dumb as hell. She's a narcissist. I tracked her profile. She's so mid. I froze mid-scroll. Death threats? I immediately texted her. Hey, are you okay? I'm deleting it now. Call me. I deleted the video, turned off the water, listened to the quiet. That's when I heard a creak. It was my front door. I walked out of the bathroom, toothbrush still in my hand, toothpaste dripping onto my shirt. Maya? I called. What stepped out of the darkness hardly looked like her. Her hair was tangled, mascara streaked across her cheeks and her eyes. Her eyes didn't look like they'd ever blink again. In her shaking hand was the kitchen knife I kept in the block on my counter. She must have let herself in with the spare key I'd given her.
You made the whole world hate me,
she whispered. I raised my hands instinctively. Maya, hey, listen, we can talk. I deleted the video. I didn't know.
You made me a joke. You let strangers rip me apart.
Maya, please, put the kitchen knife down.
For content.
She stepped toward me. I stepped back into the hallway. Maya, you're scaring me.
Good.
She lunged. I didn't even see the blade until it sank halfway into my forearm. It felt like being hit with a burning hammer. I screamed and fell against the wall, blood spilling down my hand. Maya, stop! She raised the knife again, and I swear she wasn't crying anymore. She was smiling. like this was justice, like I deserved it. My screams must have shaken the entire floor. Doors flew open. First was Arun from across the hall. He froze for a millisecond at the sight of the knife, the blood, me on the ground. Then he charged. Behind him came Mark, the guy with the pit bull. The two of them hit Maya like a tidal wave. She shrieked, furious, feral, slashing blindly. They wrestled her down, one pinning her wrists, the other holding her legs as she thrashed. "Call 911!" Arun shouted. "Ben's bleeding out!" Neighbors poured into the hallway, half asleep, horrified, holding their phones, staring at Maya as she screamed.
He ruined my life! He made me a meme! Everyone hates me because of him!
Her voice cracked, broke, shattered.
He made them hate me!
Even pinned, she kept trying to throw herself at me, like she'd chew through their arms if she had to. Blood was everywhere. Hers, mine. I couldn't tell. All I could think was, this is my fault. I did this. The cops arrived in minutes. They handcuffed her while she was still screaming my name. They had to drag her out of the hallway because she refused to stand. I watched them pin her against the elevator wall. She kept shouting through sobs.
You made them destroy me! You made them know who I am!
The elevator doors closed on her voice. I never heard someone sound so broken and so dangerous at the same time. The paramedics wrapped my arm. I kept apologizing, even when they told me to stop talking. I apologized to everyone present, but mostly to Maya, even though she wasn't there, even though she'd tried to kill me. The guilt sat on my chest like a cinder block. I opened Tik Tok while waiting in the ambulance. My comments section was blowing up again, this time with duets of the news report. Bird test almost turns deadly. Girlfriend attacks boyfriend over viral trend. People weren't laughing anymore. Some were horrified. Some still mocked her. Some called her unstable. And some blamed me for posting it. One comment stuck out, sitting at the top with 50,000 likes. The bird test doesn't reveal who loves you. It reveals who can't survive being exposed. I locked my phone. The paramedic asked if I was okay. No, I whispered. I don't think either of us are. He nodded slowly. I looked back at my apartment building, the hallway still stained red, neighbors whispering behind their doors. Dangerous didn't even begin to cover it, because the truth hit me harder than the knife did. I didn't know Maya at all, and maybe, I never should have tried to. I was 19 when this happened, and I still can't walk at night without checking behind me every few seconds. It was Halloween, the one night everyone at my college acted like consequences didn't exist. I wasn't even planning to go anywhere, but then a Snapchat invite from my friends popped up, an underground costume rave, supposedly 2 blocks from campus. They all looked like they were having the time of their lives, so I figured, fine, just for an hour. The party was in some abandoned-looking basement venue under a pawn shop. The second I stepped inside, I regretted it. Flashing lights and the reek of sweat and alcohol accompanied by loud music. But what really threw me off was the crowd. A lot of the people weren't college kids. Some looked mid-30s, maybe older. Guys with patchy beards and cheap masks, hovering around packs of teenagers. I tried texting my friends to find them, but the signal was terrible. I was just about to turn around and leave when a hand tapped my shoulder. "Hey there, sweet Patty." I turned and met a guy standing behind me. He was dressed as the Wendy's mascot, not in a funny way, but in a disturbing way. A red pigtail wig, freckles drawn with what looked like a Sharpie, and a blue dress that was definitely way too small for his middle-aged body. Chest hair peeked out from the neckline, and his beard was shaved in an uneven, patchy way.
Wrong girl.
I said, stepping back. He grinned, showing yellowish teeth. "No, you're perfect. Cute little thing like you. You smell delicious."
Okay, back off.
Instead, he came closer. "You alone?
I can show you a better party, sweetheart.
That was the last straw. I shoved past him and went straight for the exit, not even pretending to be polite. Once I reached the street, the cold air felt refreshing. My dorm was only 2 blocks away. I walked fast, hugging my jacket around me. The street was quiet, except for distant music and laughter from other Halloween parties. I'd made it about halfway when I heard slow, heavy footsteps. I told myself not to look. I told myself I was overreacting, but something inside me insisted. So I glanced over my shoulder. It was him. Under the streetlights, the Wendy's costume looked even worse. Makeup smeared, wig crooked, his face shiny with sweat, and he was grinning.
Where you running, Patty?
I sped up, and so did he.
Don't make me chase you, 'cause I like chasing.
In 5 seconds, he caught up to me and pushed me against a tree near the curb. Before I could scream, he held a knife to my neck. "Shh," he whispered. Then he leaned in close, so close his breath hit my ear. He inhaled deeply, like he was smelling perfume.
God, you smell so good.
My entire body trembled uncontrollably.
Please, let me go.
I whispered. His voice changed, dropping into something darker.
You're gonna walk with me into those woods. Be a good girl now.
I looked at the woods, dark, dead silent, and completely empty. I knew if I went in there with him, I wouldn't be coming back out.
No.
I whispered. He dug the blade closer.
Yes, you are.
The second he loosened his grip to shift the knife, I bolted sideways. I felt the metal slice across my cheek, hot, stinging pain, but adrenaline drowned everything else out. I ran like my life depended on it, because it did. I didn't dare look back. I just ran, up the hill, past the closed shops and across the street, ignoring cars honking. I didn't hear him at first. Then I heard the footsteps again, pounding behind me.
Get back here!
He screamed. I nearly tripped on the sidewalk, catching myself with my hands. My cheek was wet with blood, my lungs burning, but I forced myself to sprint faster. My dorm building finally came into view.
Help!
2 students near the entrance saw me running, bleeding, and they opened the door. I practically flew inside.
Lock it! Lock it!
I yelled. One guy hit the lock button on instinct. I turned just in time to see him, the man, stumbling toward the building, knife still in hand, wig half falling off his head. But when he saw the locked door and the students behind me, he stopped. He just stopped and stared. Then he smiled again, slow and chilling, before backing away into the shadows. My knees gave out. I collapsed on the floor, shaking violently. Someone grabbed towels and someone else called 911. I could barely speak. All I kept saying was that he attacked me. 10 minutes later, campus police arrived. They checked the woods, alleys, and the area around the venue, but the man was gone. The officers asked me over and over for details: height, weight, what he said, what he wore. I kept crying when I had to repeat the part about him smelling me. My cheek was bandaged at the hospital, and the police took photos and statements. They told me they'd patrol the area for the next few nights, and I was lucky. But luck doesn't keep you up at 3 a.m. Luck doesn't make you check your window for movement. Strangely, for weeks afterward, I kept finding Wendy's flyers slipping under my door. They could never prove it was him. They couldn't find fingerprints. There was no camera footage of the hallway, and no one saw who left them. But the last flyer, the one that made me move dorms entirely, had a message written in red marker across the top.
Found you, Patty. You still smell sweet.
I still don't know where he is. I don't know if he's still around campus. I don't know if he ever went back to the woods looking for someone else. All I know is that I survived that night. And somewhere out there, he's still dressed like the Wendy's mascot, looking for a new target. I've been a personal trainer for 6 years, and I've dealt with my fair share of odd clients. Over-enthusiastic newbies, stubborn lifters who think they know more than me, even a few creeps who mistake basic friendliness for flirting. But nothing compares to Rachel. One Tuesday morning, she checked in without looking up, hoodie pulled tight around her face as if she was hiding from the air itself. "Hi, you must be Rachel. I'm Darren," I said, offering a hand. She gave a tiny nod, her eyes locked on mine like she was studying me. "All right," I continued cautiously. "Let's start with a warm-up." While she walked on the treadmill, she kept staring at my reflection in the mirror. Her pace slowed, and her breathing turned shaky. Then I heard her whispering, not to me, but to herself.
I look exactly like him. Exactly.
I pretended not to hear. Maybe she was talking on Bluetooth. But 10 minutes in, her whispers turned into soft, broken sobs. I stepped beside her. "Hey, are you all right?" Her head snapped toward me so fast I flinched. Tears streaked down her cheeks.
My ex. You look just like him. Same cheeks, same eyes. Used to spot me the same way.
Before I could react, she grabbed the front of my shirt, both fists twisted deep into the fabric, and yanked me toward her.
Please don't leave me. Not again, please. Please.
"Rachel, hey, you're okay. Let's get another trainer to help today, okay?" She shook her head violently.
No, not him. You. Only you.
And then her expression shifted from grief to fury, like someone flipped a light switch. She stormed off the treadmill, hood swinging, muttering something I didn't catch. Members were staring. One guy took out his earbuds just to watch her scurry out the side door. I flagged Melissa, another trainer, and told her to keep an eye out in case Rachel came back. We both laughed nervously, trying to shake off the encounter. But something about her face, that desperate, obsessive stare, lingered in my mind like a bruise. Around 3 p.m., I walked into the weight room preparing for my next client. That's when I saw her again. She was pacing between machines like she was searching for something, or someone. She approached another trainer, Jason, smiling too wide, too forced.
Hi.
She asked him sweetly.
Do you have a girlfriend?
She leaned closer.
Do you live alone?
I stepped toward them, my stomach tightening. Jason shot me a confused look. Rachel glanced at me, and her entire face lit up with a terrifying, childlike excitement.
There you are.
She whispered. "Rachel?" I said slowly. "I'm with a client soon. You can talk with our manager if..." But she didn't want to hear it. She turned and approached a random member doing shoulder presses.
What's your name?
She asked.
Are you single? Are you close with your mom?
He recoiled, wiping sweat off his face like she was contagious. At that point, 2 staff members moved toward her. We had already agreed she needed to be escorted out, politely but firmly. I swear she sensed it before we even reached her. She looked around the room, breathing faster, chest heaving under the hoodie. Then, without any warning, she sprinted into the men's locker room. She burst through the door so fast it slammed against the wall.
Darren!
She screamed, her voice ricocheted off the tiles. Adrenaline punched through me. I rushed after security, pushing into a room full of startled, half-dressed men. Some shouted, some covered themselves with towels. One guy slipped off a bench trying to scramble away.
Darren!
She screamed again, voice cracking.
Where are you? Darren!
She was tearing open shower curtains, checking behind lockers, pushing past anyone in her way. I felt sick. She wasn't looking for something. She was looking for me. Security cornered her near the sinks. She refused to stop screaming my name until they physically held her arms down.
Let me see him!
She cried.
He looks exactly like him. I need to see him.
Her hood fell back. That was the first time I saw her face clearly. It wasn't angry. It wasn't broken. It was empty. Like she wasn't even inside her own head. Security escorted her to the hallway, where she fought like a trapped animal, clawing, twisting, crying so sharply it echoed. That's when one of our guards reached into her hoodie pocket and pulled out a box cutter. My stomach dropped straight through my shoes. Then he pulled out a second item, a stack of printed photographs. He handed them to me without a word. The first picture made my skin crawl. A man in his late 20s, athletic, square jaw, similar haircut. But the part that made me feel like the room was collapsing, he looked almost exactly like me. Not perfectly, but close enough that someone unhinged wouldn't know the difference. On the back of the photo, something was scribbled in shaky handwriting. He left me. He can't leave again. My hands shook. I stared at the photo until my vision went blurry. Police arrived a few minutes later. Rachel didn't fight them. She just went completely limp, like someone had unplugged her. They cuffed her, read her rights, and guided her out the side door. Before they shut the cruiser door, she looked at me through the window. Her lips curled into a smile. Not angry, not sad, just satisfied, like she had found what she came for. Even now, months later, I sleep with my phone under my pillow. I check my car twice before unlocking it. I moved apartments, and some nights I still dream of her voice echoing in the locker room. I've trained thousands of clients, but I will never forget the one who wasn't looking for fitness. She was looking for him, and she thought I was the replacement. I was 28, exhausted after a late shift, running on fumes and stale adrenaline. The rain had been coming down in sheets for hours, turning every street into a river. Wendy's was the only place still open on my route home, its neon sign flickering like it was struggling against the storm. I sat in the drive-thru lane for a second, then eventually decided to park and go inside. Maybe I just wanted warmth, or didn't want to go home to an empty apartment. The moment I stepped in, the smell of fries and coffee wrapped around me like a blanket. A small crowd sat hunched over their meals, trying to ignore the storm raging outside. I noticed a young girl wearing a Wendy shirt, mopping near the soda machine. I could tell from her tired face that she was working late-night shifts. She looked up at me as I walked in and said,
Hey, welcome to Wendy's. Sorry about the mess. The storm is making the floors a nightmare.
I chuckled, rubbing the rain out of my hair. No worries, I'm a walking puddle myself. She laughed, light, quick, and for a second, the whole place felt warm, alive. I ordered a burger and coffee, took my seat, and let the warmth seep back into my bones. She said her name was Megan and kept chatting casually while continuing her work. I remember thinking she shouldn't be working this late. Minutes later, the delivery truck rolled in. I heard it before I saw it, the loud hydraulic hiss as it backed up to the side entrance. A man in a rain-soaked jacket came through the back, shouting over the storm. Delivery, need someone to sign.
I got it. Just give me a sec.
I watched Megan jog toward the kitchen. She was smiling. The driver kept the truck running as he unloaded a dolly stacked with crates. He was rushing, too fast, too careless, trying to beat the storm. One of the Wendy's employees yelled something at him, but he barely noticed. I didn't know then that the slick trail of rainwater he dragged in would be the reason everything changed. As Megan helped guide the dolly through the kitchen doorway, she stepped into the puddle. I watched her shoe skid, just a little at first, then completely. Her legs flew out from under her. The crate tipped. "Hey!" I shouted, instinctively rising from my seat. Time slowed, not in a dramatic movie way, but in a sickening, drawn-out dread, as the heavy crate slammed into the fryer's hose. A sharp snap echoed through the kitchen. Then came the hiss. The hose whipped loose. Scalding oil sprayed across the floor in a violent burst, hitting the walls, the floor, and the paper bags stacked beside the fryers. "Megan!" I screamed. I jumped over the chairs and ran toward the counter. Smoke rose instantly. Flames crawled over the grease-soaked paper like they'd been waiting all night for a chance. "Call 911!" But panic had already swallowed the room. Everyone shoved toward the exit, chairs crashing against the tile. I could barely see Megan through the haze. She was on the ground, trying to crawl, her hands slipping in the spreading oil. "Megan, get up! Get up!" I screamed. She tried. God, she tried. She pushed against the floor, shaking and coughing violently. The flames behind her flared, swallowing the counter, licking upward toward the ceiling tiles. Someone grabbed me from behind and pulled me out of the Wendy's outlet. I could see Megan still struggling through the entrance glass door. "Please," I whispered to myself. "Please move." But the fire was spreading so fast that no one dared to go back in to get her out. Just when I was thinking I should give it one last try, I saw a fireball explode behind her. "No, no, no!" I shouted. A wave of heat surged from the Wendy's, pushing everyone back. I shielded my face, feeling my skin tighten from the blast. The glass door and windows shattered, echoing in the storm. The smoke filled the air. I stumbled backward with the others, tears burning my eyes. We burst out into the rain, choking, gasping, and collapsing onto the soaked pavement. Within 5 minutes, flames were pouring out of the windows. I remember someone tugging my arm, asking me if I was okay. I couldn't answer. I could only stare at the building where Megan had been smiling not 10 minutes earlier. Fire trucks arrived in waves, sirens echoing against the storm. Firefighters rushed in, masks on, hoses blasting torrents of water. The Wendy's sign flickered, sparked, and finally went dark. I stood in the rain, feeling the cold soak through my clothes, mixing with the heat still clinging to my skin. My coffee had spilled somewhere along the way, the cup crushed under someone's foot. By the next morning, the fire was out. The building was a black skeleton, smoking quietly as the sun rose. The news called it a freak kitchen accident. Freak, accident, like those words could erase the sound of her laughter, the warmth in her voice, the terror in her last breath. Reporters moved on within a day. The delivery company sent condolences. Corporate announced plans to rebuild. But me? I couldn't stop replaying it. I couldn't unsee the moment that Megan's foot slipped. I couldn't unhear the silence after her scream. For weeks, the smell clung to me. Fried oil, wet ashes, something darker beneath it. I threw out the jacket I was wearing that night, but sometimes, I swear I still smell it. Worse, some nights, when the rain pounds the windows just right, I hear something else. The soft scrape of a mop across tile. A tired but warm voice saying,
Hey, welcome to Wendy's.
And behind it, a different sound. A crack, a fall, a scream swallowed by fire. And I know, no matter where I go, no matter how much time passes, I'll always be standing in the rain outside that burning building, watching Megan's helpless face right before the fire engulfed her. My therapist says writing this out might help me sleep again. I don't know if it will, but here I am. If you're reading this, please understand, I am not exaggerating anything. I'm 29 years old, and what happened to me during my sunrise walk 2 months ago has changed the way I look at every person I meet. I walk the same trail every day before work. It loops around a lake, then cuts through a patch of forest before opening back up into a grassy clearing. That morning, the sky was soft pink, the air cold enough to sting my nose. I had just rounded the bend near the old picnic benches when I heard branches snapping. I stared at the direction from where the sound came from. First few seconds, I saw nothing. Then, slowly and silently, a woman stumbled out of the woods. She was barefoot, covered in dirt with a bruised face, hair tangled with leaves. She was shaking so violently I could hear her teeth clicking, and the look in her eyes, wide, wild terror. Her voice cracked as she whispered,
Please, he's going to kill me. Help.
I kept my voice steady, or tried to. Something told me not to panic, not in front of her. I slipped my hand into my hoodie pocket and pressed the power button on my phone. I didn't lift it out. I didn't look down. I just dialed 911 by muscle memory and kept it hidden, letting the operator listen.
It's okay.
I murmured to the woman, reaching out slowly like she was a wounded animal.
You're safe with me. Just breathe.
But she grabbed me, hard, fingers digging into my arms so tightly I winced. She kept glancing over her shoulder at the tree line, like something was stalking her from behind every trunk.
I left my bag in there. It has all my details, but I'm scared to go back there alone.
She whispered. Her fear felt real enough to choke on. I spoke gently to keep her calm, but the truth is, I was terrified. My hand was shaking in my pocket, gripping the phone, praying 911 understood I couldn't talk. Then, I heard a sudden movement. It came from the woods, slow, deliberate steps, like someone pushing through bushes and coming closer. The woman's nails dug deeper into my skin, her entire body stiffened. A tall man stepped out between the trees. He was holding a shovel, and not a clean one. The blade was caked in soil, fresh soil. He didn't say a word, just stared at us with this blank, unreadable expression. Not angry, not surprised, almost patient. The woman immediately ducked behind me, like a child hiding from a monster. Her sobbing was so loud I could feel it shaking my back.
Please don't let him take me.
She cried. I stood there, frozen between them, heart pounding so hard it drowned out the birds. The man's eyes flicked from her to me, then back to her. And then, without a single word, he turned around and walked back into the woods, just disappeared behind the trees. I didn't understand. Why leave? Why walk away so calmly? My phone buzzed in my pocket, nearly making me jump. I looked down, a silent text from 911. Units arriving. Stay where you are. The woman still clung to me like she was about to collapse. I kept whispering,
It's okay. Help is coming. Just stay with me.
even though my own legs were trembling. Minutes later, though it felt like hours, officers appeared from the trail entrance. They didn't run. They approached slowly, cautiously, hands hovering near their holsters. Two of them went past me into the woods. Within seconds, one of them shouted. I don't know exactly what they found, but I heard the words like fresh dirt, rope, half dug, and footprints. The rest stayed with me and the woman. I kept explaining everything, how she ran out, what she said, what the man did. I expected sympathy, reassurance. Instead, one of the officers kept staring at the woman with a puzzled, almost disturbed expression. Then he asked me something that made no sense at the time. Ma'am, did she ask who you called? I blinked.
What?
Did she ask if you had a phone, or ask you to call anyone? I replayed that moment in my head. The trembling, the begging, the grip on my arm.
No.
I said slowly.
She never asked anything about a phone.
The officer nodded like that confirmed something. He stepped closer, voice low. Victims who are running for their lives usually ask for help, ask for a phone, ask if the police were called. I frowned, confused, but before I could respond, he pointed subtly at the woman. She wasn't trembling anymore, not shaking, not crying, just standing perfectly still, watching me. Her posture had changed completely. No fear, no desperation. Her face, though bruised, was eerily neutral now, almost calculating. The officer leaned in even closer, barely whispering. She wasn't running from that man. I felt my throat close up.
What are you talking about?
The officer nodded toward the trees where the man had disappeared. He didn't leave because he was scared. He walked back because she wasn't doing her job. I stared at him, horrified.
What job?
He looked me dead in the eyes, jaw tightening. To lure victims into the woods. My entire body went numb, the world around me muffled like someone stuffed cotton in my ears. I turned to look at the woman, slowly, terrified of what I'd see. She didn't look away. Her eyes, earlier wide with fear, were flat now. Empty, cold, like she was evaluating whether she'd get another chance. One of the officers gently pulled me behind him. Another restrained the woman's hands as she watched me without blinking. And that was it. The moment I realized everything I thought was wrong. The moment I understood how close I came to walking into those woods with her when she mentioned about her bag. How easily I could have been dragged into that half-dug grave. The woman was taken into custody by the cops, but the man haven't been found yet. I still take walks, but never during early mornings, never near the woods, and never, ever alone. I've worked night shifts most of my life, warehouses, malls, a bus depot once, but nothing ever bothered me the way empty gyms do. There's something about the stillness, the dead silence, the way every machine sits like a sleeping giant waiting to wake up. This place was worse. Our gym had been shut down for a full renovation, flooring ripped out, mirrors removed, the ceiling partially open with wires hanging like veins. Half the treadmills were wrapped in cloudy plastic sheets that rustled whenever the AC kicked in. That night, I clocked in at 11 p.m., did my rounds, checked all the entrances. Everything was exactly as it should be, until 2:15 a.m. when I heard the slam. It was sharp, metallic, echoing from the old locker room at the far end of the building. I froze mid-walk. Renovation crews often left tools stacked inside, so I told myself something had fallen. A ladder, maybe, or someone hadn't locked the storage cabinet properly. Still, something about the sound bothered me. It wasn't a clatter, it was a slam, like a door being hit from the inside. I grabbed my flashlight, cleared my throat to steady myself, and headed toward the locker room. The hall was pitch dark except for my beam of light, and every step seemed to amplify the renovation silence. The plastic sheets rustling overhead, the faint hum of an unfinished light fixture. When I reached the locker room, the door was slightly open. I nudged it wider with the flashlight and stepped inside. The moment the beam hit the first row of lockers, my stomach dropped. On the metal surface, smeared across 3 locker doors, were bloody fingerprints. 4 long streaks, like someone had dragged their hand downward. For a second, I just stood there, my breath going cold. Someone must have broken in, I muttered to myself, even though the idea didn't make any sense. There were no signs of a break-in at the entrance, and why would a vandal bleed all over the inside of the building instead of stealing equipment? I lifted my radio. Maintenance, come in. Got something weird in the locker room. Static. I pressed the button again. Maintenance? You there? Nothing but a harsh, buzzing hiss. That's when I heard it. A wet, bubbling cough. It echoed from the demolished shower area, the part of the gym the contractors had gutted earlier that week. The walls there were stripped to the studs, tiles cracked and piled like broken bones across the floor. The coughing came again, softer this time, painful. Against every instinct, I followed it. The smell hit me first, metallic, warm, unmistakably blood. My flashlight quivered in my hand as I stepped over chunks of tile, drywall dust swirling around my boots. Then my foot hit something soft. I looked down. A severed hand lay between 2 broken tiles, fingers curled slightly inward as if it had been reaching for something. Still fresh, skin still a normal color, not stiff. I gagged and stumbled back, my stomach lurching up into my throat. Before I could even breathe, a voice came from behind the half-demolished shower wall. "You scared me." I jerked the flashlight up so fast I nearly dropped it. A man stepped into view. He was barefoot, shirtless, and coated in drywall dust like he'd been crawling through the walls. His face was smeared red, streaks of it around his mouth, on his forehead, on his neck, as if he'd wiped it with bloody hands. But the worst part was his smile. He tilted his head, cracking his neck loudly.
"Do you know, they locked me in here when construction ended tonight?"
My flashlight trembled as I raised it higher. In his right hand, he held a rusty tile cutter saw. the kind with jagged teeth designed to chew through ceramic. Its grooves were clogged with something, hair and flesh. Oh, God. I breathed.
You see it?
He asked, lifting the tool like a trophy.
It works so well, better than the new ones. The teeth just...
He dragged a finger along the edge.
They just grab you.
He lunged. I didn't think. I didn't breathe. I just turned and ran. The room exploded into chaos. Tiles crunching under my boots. The plastic sheets slapping as I shoved past them. Behind me, I heard him laughing. An unhinged animal rasp, followed by the wild scraping sound of metal against tile as he sprinted with the saw in his hand. He was fast, much faster than I expected.
Come back!
He screamed.
Come here! Come here! Come here!
I sprinted toward the emergency exit. My lungs burned, my legs wobbled, but adrenaline pushed me forward. I slammed my shoulder into the door, stumbled out into the cold night air, and shoved it violently shut from the outside. He slammed into the door. The metal vibrated. I backed away, shaking so hard I nearly fell. Blue lights flashed in the distance. Another guard must have called the cops after hearing the commotion. I ran toward them, waving my arms, voice cracking as I tried to explain. By the time the police entered the building, the man was gone. They found him an hour later, curled inside an air duct like a deranged animal, clutching the tile cutter saw, humming to himself. And next to him, hidden in a pile of insulation, were two more bodies. Two people had been missing for over a week. He had been living in the gym, feeding, waiting, watching. I quit the next morning, didn't even clean out my locker, didn't ask for my last paycheck. I just walked out and never looked back. People think night shifts are peaceful, but when you're alone in a half-finished building with shadows, vents, and broken spaces, you're never really alone. Some things crawl in the dark, some things stay behind after the workers leave, and some things are waiting for someone like me to hear a noise and walk right into them. I always go for morning walks through Riverside Park. Nothing about that day seemed weird until I saw this homeless-looking woman walking past me with a tiny boy, maybe 4 or 5. The woman leaned down and whispered,
You just wait at the bench. Mom will be back with cotton candy.
It sounded normal, sweet even, but something about her felt wrong. I shook my head, brushed it off, and kept jogging. About 20 minutes later, my route curved back toward that same bench, and the boy was still sitting alone. His legs dangled off the seat, kicking at nothing. He was counting softly.
1, 2, 3.
Using his tiny fingers, touching each chubby fingertip like he'd practiced it 1,000 times. Hey, buddy, what are you doing?
Mommy said I should count to 10 when I get scared, but Mommy still didn't come back.
He glanced around with wet eyes, then looked at me.
Should I keep counting?
Something twisted inside of me. Who leaves a kid this young alone for so long? Before I could say anything, a harsh voice cut through the air.
Hey! Get away from my kid!
I turned around. The same woman stood there, but now with a huge pink cotton candy and a man beside her, a rough-looking guy with a shaved head. The woman strutted toward me.
Mind your damn business!
The man smirked.
Yeah, hero. Go jog elsewhere.
Heat rushed through my face, but I forced myself to back off. I walked away, anger buzzing in my ears. I told myself not to interfere again. Not my family, not my problem. But then, I heard it. A sentence that froze me mid-step.
I can't afford to feed him anymore. Just give me the money.
Relax. I told you you'll get paid. The buyers want a kid his age.
My blood ran cold. I peered over my shoulder. The man handed her a stack of cash. She snatched it without even looking at the boy. The kid started crying immediately.
Mommy? Mommy, please don't go.
She didn't even turn around. The man lifted the still crying kid like he was lifting groceries and headed toward the park's exit. I followed him because I couldn't just walk away. A black van waited by the curb, engine running. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911, whispering everything: the exchange, the crying, the cash. Dispatch told me officers were on the way, but the man put the kid inside the van and slammed the door shut. Panic punched me. The cops won't make it in time. The man stood outside the van, leaning against the passenger door, talking on the phone.
Got a good one today. I'll pay a hefty sum for him.
My hands shook. I had two choices: wait and hope the cops made it, or take a risk and save the kid. Before my brain could argue, my legs were already moving. I crept behind the van, slowly lifted the handle, and eased the door open. The kid sat curled up on the floor, tears staining his cheeks. He looked up at me with those big eyes.
Where's Mommy?
Shh, I whispered, lifting him into my arms. I'm getting you out of...
Hey, what the hell?
I barely turned before a fist smashed into my face. Pain exploded through my jaw. I stumbled back, shielding the boy with my body. The man punched me again, this time in my ribs, so hard I thought something cracked. I still refused to let go. He swung again, but by now, people nearby noticed the commotion. The man realized the gravity of the situation and grabbed the kid's tiny arm.
Don't touch him!
He shoved the child toward me violently, as if trying to get revenge. I barely held on to the kid, collapsing onto the concrete with him on top of me. He clung to my shirt, sobbing. The man peeled out in the van before anyone could stop him. Cops arrived minutes later. Turns out the woman was a drug addict who'd sold her son. The man was part of a trafficking ring. The kid, his name was Oliver, held my hand the entire ride to the station. He wouldn't let go. Inside, when officers asked him questions, he refused to sit anywhere except on my lap. He kept wiping his eyes with his little fists. Every time a door opened, he flinched. Hours later, when the paperwork was finally done, I stood up to leave. "All right, buddy," I said softly. "You're safe now. The officers will take care of you." He didn't move. I turned toward the exit and felt something wrap tightly around my leg. I looked down. Oliver stood there, trembling, cheeks streaked with tears. His voice was barely a whisper.
Please don't leave me. Everyone leaves me.
I swear, those lines hit harder than any punch that trafficker threw. I knelt down and gathered him into my arms. He buried his face in my chest like he'd known me forever. I didn't know what made me say it. Maybe instinct, maybe something bigger. "I'm not going anywhere," I whispered. 6 months later, Oliver's sitting on my couch in dinosaur pajamas, drawing us with crayons, his tiny hand holding a green crayon with fierce concentration. He hears my footsteps and looks up, smiling the first real smile I've ever seen from him. The adoption process is on progress. I've hired a good lawyer, and so far things are looking positive for us.
Daddy, look!
I still tear up every time he calls me that. I walk over and ruffle his curls. He giggles and keeps drawing. People ask, why am I adopting him? Why am I taking responsibility for him? They never heard him say those words. They never felt his tiny arms cling to them like he was holding on for dear life. He needed someone, and truthfully, I think I did too. Now, when we walk through the same park, he holds my hand so tightly I sometimes joke that he'll cut the circulation off. But the truth is, I always hold back just a little tighter, because nobody is ever taking him away again.